Chapter 3958. Indeed, there was a tire brand called Michelin that could be found everywhere. Liang Yin often saw this signboard's tires and a special cartoon character. Qin Zhou pondered for a moment and said, "Actually, Michelin restaurants have another nickname." "Oh. What's the nickname?" "It's a restaurant that is troublesome to prepare and troublesome to eat." Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. So there was such a saying. Michelin dishes might take a lot of effort to prepare, but if you eat, the dish will be gone in a few seconds. Will you not be full? Coming to this restaurant is for this elegant atmosphere. But you shouldn't be hungry. Qin Zhou said, "Why are you in a daze? Let's go in. I've already made a reservation." Oh, Liang Yin was about to enter when she suddenly realized that Qin Zhou had stopped moving. His arm was slightly empty as he gestured to her. "Just hold my arm." Liang Yin was a little uneasy, but she still mustered up her courage and held his arm nervously. Somehow, she felt that this action was something that only couples would do. Qin Zhou took her into the restaurant, and a waiter immediately led him to the reserved booth. Michelin restaurant had an elegant environment. When they walked in, the lights were dim, but it was enough to see the layout of the restaurant and the path under their feet. The two of them walked to the booth. The waiter first pulled out a chair and gestured for Liang Yin to sit down. It was Liang Yin's first time in this restaurant. She was not used to such thoughtful service and stood there in a daze. Qin Zhou said, "Sit down." Only then did Liang Yin dare to sit down. Just as she sat down, the waiter adjusted the seat for her and walked to Qin Zhou's side to pull out a chair for him to sit down. The service was too thoughtful. There was the sense of ceremony of European royalty. The service of this Michelin restaurant prioritized the ladies. In the same booth, the ladies would be prioritized before the men. The waiter looked French. This restaurant was originally opened by French people. Everything in the restaurant, even the details, had been restored to the original taste of Michelin. The waiter unfolded the napkin and carefully placed it on her lap. However, such a complicated etiquette made her feel even more uneasy. She was afraid that she would ruin the dining ceremony of the restaurant and become a joke to others. She felt that most of the people who went in and out of the restaurant were either rich or respectable, but it was her first time stepping into such an expensive restaurant. This was even more luxurious than the Western food Hua Jin had treated her to. After laying out the napkins, the waiter served 2 appetizers. There were 2 appetizers. One of them was pointed out by Qin Zhou, black truffle puff skin soup, which was bogus classic. It was said that only VIP guests could enjoy this dish, and it was not available to outsiders. On the surface, the cup looked like it was made of crispy pastry. After poking open the golden skin, one could see the warm soup inside. Liang Yin was suddenly in a dilemma. The dishes were so exquisite that she didn't know how to eat them. Previously, when he went to the Western restaurant, he still knew how to cut the steak. So, should he just drink the crispy skin soup or? Liang Yin looked at Qin Zhou, asking for advice. Chapter 3959. She took a bite and the fragrance lingered in her mouth. Liang Yin followed Qin Zhou's example. She soaked the pastry in the soup and took a bite. It was delicious. The appetizer was Hungarian cheese, which was also delicious. Just like that, she finished all the appetizers in no time. The waiter was standing at the side. When he saw Qin Zhou raise his hand, he immediately walked over and took away all the plates. However, when he saw Liang Yin eating the CD, he was surprised. Qin Zhou took a look and saw that Liang Yin was a little confused. He immediately explained, "Almost no one eats all the appetizers here." Because it's delicious." "It's okay. It's nothing. It's just that most people are picky. Moreover, they're afraid that if they eat too much appetizers, they won't be able to eat the main course." Isn't this the main course? The main course hasn't been served yet. Usually, one dish is the only dish on the table. When the appetizers are taken away, the next dish will be served. I see, she had learned something new. Liang Yin smiled and said, "It's delicious. If you didn't treat me, I wouldn't have known that there was such delicious Western food. This Michelin restaurant is considered authentic. The taste is quite good." Qin Zhou's taste was also more picky. The restaurant that he chose would definitely not be bad. Then, the main course was served one after another. The music in the restaurant was soothing and gradually calmed Liang Yin's nervous mood. Parmesan soufflé, Bayern boiled eggs. When the burgundy snail was served, Liang Yin's face gradually showed a trace of embarrassment. "This is snail, burgundy snail. It's delicious." Snail, can snails be eaten? Snails are cultivated artificially. Their meat is very tender. When Liang Yin saw the snail, the image of a snail with two antennae slowly wriggling on the ground on a rainy day appeared in her mind. It was sticky and she could even see mucus. It felt difficult to eat. Liang Yin was a little hesitant. Qin Zhou knew that she didn't dare to eat it. Those who weren't used to French food might flinch at the sight of snails. Actually, close your eyes and don't care what ingredients it's made of. Just try it. Perhaps because of Qin Zhou's encouragement, Liang Yin did not want to disappoint him. So, she closed her eyes and took a bite. If he forced himself to forget that it was a snail, the fat and tender texture and the sweet and fragrant juice were indeed delicious. However, when he thought about the appearance of the snail, he still found it hard to swallow. However, Liang Yin obviously gave him face and swallowed it. However, the expression on his face when he swallowed the pill was clearly a little conflicted. Qin Zhou couldn't help but laugh. After all, to her, eating snails was no different from eating earthworms. Is it good? Not bad, but, if you're not used to it, just put it aside. It's fine. It's a waste not to eat. Liang Yin closed her eyes again and took another bite. She had even eaten silkworm pupae before, so what was there to be afraid of snails? It was just a mouthful of protein. After temporarily ignoring the snail, Liang Yin no longer held any grudges. She ate the 3 snails and wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin. Actually, if you ignore the fact that it's a snail, this dish is quite delicious. Qin Zhou pursed his lips and smiled. He raised his wine glass. Cheers! Liang Yin also raised her wine glass. Ding! The glasses clinked. Chapter 3960. Liang Yin was a little afraid of getting drunk. She didn't know how she would behave when she was drunk and whether she would make a fool of herself. So, she asked, "Will I get drunk?" That depends on your alcohol tolerance. However, no matter how bad your alcohol tolerance is, at least you won't get drunk after drinking this glass. Qin Zhou paused and said half-jokingly, "But if you can't drink, don't force yourself. I don't accept scams." Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled. She suddenly felt that it was very comfortable to get along with humorous men like Qin Zhou. It was no wonder that people said that when they were young, they liked to chase after young, fresh meat because they were handsome and had a youthful aura. However, most women still ended up with mature and steady men. Qin Zhou was a typical mature man. At this moment, the lights in the booth suddenly dimmed. Liang Yin was shocked. She thought that there was a power outage. But if there was a power outage, the lights wouldn't have dimmed so gradually. Qin Zhou saw Liang Yin's surprised expression and immediately said, "This is a special program for this restaurant." Special program. While Liang Yin was still curious, she saw the holographic projection lights above her head emit a glassy color that wasn't dazzling. Then, this charming and resplendent light gently fell on the white tablecloth. Such a big table now became a natural projection screen. The entire tablecloth was rendered into the Milky Way by the lights. It was too beautiful. It was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Liang Yin sucked in a breath of cold air. She didn't expect that the white tablecloth, which she thought looked ordinary when she sat down, would be so ordinary. She didn't expect that a holographic image would give her the feeling of being in a dazzling galaxy. It's so beautiful. Qin Zhou smiled and looked at Liang Yin. Liang Yin looked at the resplendent lights in a daze. Along with the music, all kinds of beautiful effects were created. Can I take a picture? Of course. After getting Qin Zhou's approval, Liang Yin quickly took out her phone, took a picture, and uploaded it to her WeChat moments. She often used WeChat, but she didn't have many friends on it. Hua Jin was also there. Not long after Liang Yin uploaded the post to her WeChat moments, Hua Jin saw it. He went to look for Qin Zhou furiously and sent him an angry emoji. Qin Zhou. You guys had a secret meeting behind my back and even went to eat a Michelin 3-star restaurant. Why didn't you bring me along? Qin Zhou took out his phone and saw that it was a message from Hua Jin. He glanced at it and threw it aside, ignoring it. Hua Jin went to harass Liang Yin again. Okay, you guys went to have fun behind my back and left me alone in the hotel. Liang Yin replied with a snickering emoji. Hee, I won't bring you. Hua Jin exploded in anger and sent an aggrieved kitten emoji. In the blink of an eye, tears flowed like a river. Humph. If there's good food next time, I won't bring you guys along. Liang Yin smiled and replied with a tongue-out emoji. Then, she ignored Hua Jin. Qin Zhou saw that she was holding her phone and guessed that it was a message from Hua Jin. He asked, Hua Jin went to harass you. Yeah, he said that we didn't bring him to Michelin and he was angry. Qin Zhou snorted. Did I not bring him here to eat enough? He must be sick of it. Do you guys come here often to eat? Chapter 3961. Liang Yin lifted the wine glass and took a sip of champagne. Perhaps it was because of the small amount of alcohol, but her face turned red all of a sudden. On the way back, Qin Zhou had been drinking, so he called the chauffeur to help Liang Yin into the car. She was obviously a little drunk and a little groggy, but she wasn't exactly drunk. She only felt that Qin Zhou's voice was a little ethereal and distant. The heater was turned on in the car, so it was very warm. Liang Yin leaned against the seat and felt her head suddenly become heavy and groggy. Seeing that her head was swaying, Qin Zhou simply reached out his arm and put it around her shoulder so that she could lean on his shoulder. For some reason, at that moment, Liang Yin suddenly became clear-headed. Even though she had indeed drunk some wine earlier and felt a little tipsy, Qin Zhou's action had undoubtedly startled her awake. Leaning on his shoulder, she was so stiff that her whole body was tense. Liang Yin mustered up her courage and opened her eyes a little to sneak a peek above her head. Qin Zhou looked out the window quietly. His chiseled side profile was extremely exquisite, like a work of art carved by the gods. With such good looks, he could definitely debut as an idol. At that moment, Liang Yin clearly understood that she seemed to be in love. No one had ever treated her so well. Whether it was her father or her mother, she had been like a weed since she was young. She felt like she had been exiled. She wasn't a sentimental person, but occasionally, she would feel envious and jealous when she saw other children coming home from school with their parents. When she came home alone, the house was empty. When she was young, she could only go to her grandparents' house to eat, or cook instant noodles for herself. She didn't know how it felt to be doted on. It wasn't because Qin Zhou was so good to her that she liked him. It was because he gave her an indescribable feeling. She would rather recognize this feeling as a sense of belonging. I don't know how many times you've been giggling since this morning. On the set, Liang Yin was waiting for the opportunity to try on her makeup. When Hua Jin came back from filming, he saw her hugging his hot water bottle and giggling like no one else was around. He walked over grumpily and snatched the hot water bottle from her arms. He glanced at her and said, "How much longer are you going to giggle like that?" Liang Yin snapped back to her senses. She glanced at him and quickly stopped giggling. "Have you passed?" "Yes." "Wait for the next one." Hua Jin sat down and looked at her expression suspiciously. Even though she wasn't wearing makeup or blush, her red cheeks looked like they had been dyed with rouge. He couldn't help but feel suspicious. "What did you guys do yesterday?" Liang Yin said, "Nothing. I saw you giggling like a fool." Hua Jin smiled wickedly. "Did you make any progress yesterday? What are you thinking? What else did you do after dinner yesterday?" "We didn't do anything. After dinner, he sent me home and then left." Hua Jin furrowed his brows. He hated Qin Zhou for being so disappointing. He had thought that Qin Zhou had taken a liking to her and wanted to make a move on her. Chapter 3962. At last night's dinner, Hua Jin had thought that Qin Zhou wanted to serve meat directly. He didn't expect that Qin Zhou had become a vegetarian. Boring, humph. When Liang Yin heard that, she could guess what Hua Jin was thinking. She snorted coldly. "Do you think Qin Zhou is like you?" "He's a gentleman, not what you think." "He's a gentleman. Do you want me to talk to you about his past relationships?" Hua Jin deliberately baited her. As expected, Liang Yin took the bait and became excited all of a sudden. "Past relationships? Tell me about it." "Humph, if you want to know, I won't say." "Hey." Liang Yin hated people who kept people in suspense and didn't satisfy their curiosity. Was there a need to ask? It was obvious that he was doing it on purpose. Since Hua Jin didn't say anything on purpose, Liang Yin also resisted the urge to ask. Firstly, she didn't want Hua Jin to get what he wanted. Secondly, it didn't seem appropriate to ask about his past. However, Liang Yin started to ask Hua Jin about other things. "Do you know what Qin Zhou likes to eat?" For example, what kind of dishes he likes to eat. Also, what kind of fruits and flowers he likes. Hua Jin said casually, "He's a capitalist. He likes money the most. Money can buy everything you say." Liang Yin was speechless. She was speechless. Hua Jin frowned slightly. "Why, you want to make soup and cook for him?" I heard that when he goes to work, he either orders takeout or eats from the cafeteria. The food in the cafeteria must be terrible, right? If I remember correctly, when Huanyu was still in charge of CEO Mu, the chefs in the cafeteria at Huanyu's headquarters were all 5-star chefs. This tradition hasn't been broken yet. In other words, he was saying that a 5-star chef would surely be able to cook better food than him. Liang Yin was rebuffed one after another. She pursed her lips, feeling wronged. Then, "I'll knit a scarf for him." Knitting a scarf. Hua Jin narrowed his eyes and teased, "Can't you be more mature and knit something difficult?" "I know how to knit scarves and scarves." "Really? Why would I lie to you?" Hua Jin said confidently, "Isn't a scarf just a matter of 2 needles tying a row of knots, then threading, hooking, and picking?" Liang Yin was hit hard again. Her whole person was like a wilted eggplant. She hung her head and looked very depressed. "But you can buy him a gift." "I don't know what gift to give. I have a feeling that Qin Zhou lacks nothing." Hua Jin winked at her. "Do you know what Qin Zhou likes?" "What?" "Men are just like women who like lipstick, bags, and jewelry. Men also have things that they like." "What?" "Qin Zhou has a hobby of collecting things." I remember his walk-in closet has a row of drawers filled with all kinds of beautiful cufflinks. In fact, most of them are out of print. Cufflinks. Liang Yin felt that it was not a problem. These cufflinks shouldn't be expensive, right? Those that are not expensive usually cost a few thousand yuan. Those that are expensive, such as those with diamonds or gems, cost a few 100,000 yuan. Those that are out of print cost a few million yuan. There are even some that are hard to estimate. Liang Yin was dumbfounded when she heard this. A few million yuan. She remembered that cufflinks were the kind that replaced the original cufflinks and were nailed to the cuffs. Why? Someone spent a few million yuan just to buy a pair of cufflinks. How extravagant. Chapter 3963. I remember when I accompanied Qin Zhou to the Fashion Week last year, the brand manager of Cartier gave him a pair of cufflinks worth $1 million. There are also Bulgari and Hermes. Qin Zhou prefers Bulgari and Versace. These two brands are the most common in the cufflinks at home. Liang Yin was already dizzy from listening to them. She felt that the $1 million she held tightly was not worth mentioning in front of these two brands. Evil capitalists. Wasn't the gap between the rich and the poor a little too big? After trying on her makeup, Liang Yin hailed a cab and went to the department store. Standing at the Bulgari counter, she was still dizzy. Should she buy it? If she did, what reason should she give to Qin Zhou? Liang Yin thought hard and finally came up with a reason. Just say that I'm thanking him for treating me to a Michelin restaurant. Okay. It's decided then. She put her hand in her pocket and held the bank card tightly. Because she had been holding it, the cold bank card felt warm. Liang Yin walked into the Bulgari counter, trembling with fear. The reason why she was trembling with fear was that Bulgari's magnificent facade was a little dazzling. Even the staff at the counter were exquisitely dressed and good-looking. Let's walk around first. It was better to take a look at the price. Otherwise, if she asked, it would be hundreds of thousands or millions. What should she do if she couldn't afford it? That would be awkward. She felt that this kind of store was not a place for her. Liang Yin strolled around the counter as if there was no one else around. The staff in charge of the store sized her up and didn't pay much attention to her. No one came forward to serve Liang Yin. Those who worked in such a counter were all elites. Which one of them didn't have extremely sharp eyesight? Just by looking at her from head to toe, they could tell what brand she was wearing. Liang Yin was wearing clothes bought online. At most, they cost a few $100s. Which of the people who came in and out of these counters wasn't a rich lady wearing a mink coat or a successful man accompanied by a beautiful woman? She was probably a poor person who saw Bulgari and came to shop out of curiosity. Seriously. Why would poor people come to visit Bulgari? However, after seeing that no one was there to serve her and that she had been walking around alone for a long time without any intention of leaving, the shop assistants gathered together and looked at her with disgust. Who is going to chase her away? I saw that she had been strolling around inside for so long, but she didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Don't tell me he's a thief trying to steal from the counter. She doesn't look like it. She's a girl. Why else would she shop in the counter for so long? Looking at her poor appearance, how could she possibly be here to buy things? How can a commoner like him afford the things here? She doesn't look like a thief, does she? Who knows? Is the word thief written on the thief's face? The store manager became impatient and said, there are only so many displays in the counter. Just go and see what's missing. A few of the shop assistants immediately nodded and pretended to be on patrol. They pretended as if nothing had happened and looked at the displays in the counter to see what was missing. Another shop assistant stepped forward and asked, "Hello, Mississippi. You've been shopping here for a long time. What can I do for you?" Chapter 3964. She had just walked around. Although some of the designs were indeed cheap, they still cost tens of thousands. Moreover, they were not considered good-looking. Even a layman like her felt that they were not good-looking, let alone Qin Zhou. Most of the good-looking designs cost 5 or 6 figures. Some of them did not have a price tag, so she did not dare to ask. She was afraid that she would not be able to afford them and would be looked down upon. Actually, Liang Yin was very sensitive. From the moment she walked into the counter, she could sense that the people at the counter were not very friendly towards her. For example, before entering this counter, she saw a woman dressed like a noblewoman being bowed and sent away by the shop assistant. Her smile was as flattering as it could be. When she turned around and saw her entering the counter, the heat on her face quickly cooled down, and her expression changed faster than flipping through a book. Liang Yin felt that she was being looked down upon, so she simply looked around herself and did not bother others. Now that the staff saw her, she took the initiative to ask. However, her tone was neither cold nor warm, and there was no intention of welcoming her. Instead, it sounded like she was driving her away. Liang Yin did not feel good when she heard this. However, on second thought, no matter how bad it was, she still had a lot of money on her. After all, Hua Jin had given her $1 million. This $1 million could not possibly not be enough to buy a pair of cufflinks here. Thinking of this, she became self-righteous again. I want to buy a pair of cufflinks. Seeing that she had spoken, the staff was a little surprised. She had thought that since she had obviously come forward to drive her away, she would ask for a snub and quickly leave. She did not expect her to say that she wanted to buy cufflinks. Who do you want to buy it for? Liang Yin pondered for a moment and said, I'm buying it for my boyfriend. I see, the staff gave a fake smile and suddenly reminded her dryly, our things here are not cheap. A pair of cufflinks would cost at least 5 figures. Are you sure you want to buy it? She asked so tactfully because she wanted to indirectly remind her that the things here were expensive and not cheap. She had to think carefully. What if she eagerly introduced them and the customer thought that they were expensive and did not want to buy it? Then wouldn't she be wasting her breath? It was not that they were too snobbish. Indeed, sometimes, in order to welcome a customer, the customer only came to the counter to take a look. It was nothing more than wanting to see the true face of the luxury goods. In fact, they did not really want to buy it. However, he still had to entertain the customers who entered the store. Often, this kind of customer would pretend to walk around, and when the shop assistant introduced them one by one, it was obvious that they couldn't afford it. They would even pompously say, it's not to my liking, and leave. As for the really good customers, they were snatched away by other colleagues. On the surface, these counter clerks got along well with each other, but in fact, all of them were very clear-headed and astute. Why would they go against their own performance? Therefore, for such customers, the staff would push all the blame to their new colleagues. When Liang Yin heard what she said, she was a little displeased. If you can't afford it, why are you here? On the surface, the shop assistant was smiling, but in her heart, she was cursing. She had heard such words countless times. Often, there would be some old ladies dressed in gaudy clothes, pretending to be rich ladies, who would come to the counter to shop, but in the end, they would not buy anything. Okay, then take a look and see if there are any designs that you like. Liang Yin looked again and felt that there were no designs that looked particularly good in the counter. Are all the designs here? Chapter 3965. Of course not. These are the more affordable designs in our store. The really expensive ones have been kept away because many customers touch them with their hands. If the sweat on their hands gets on those gems and diamonds, it will affect their luster. Oh, Liang Yin's eyes darkened when she heard this. The designs on the outside looked so mediocre, but the prices were already in the tens of thousands. Wouldn't the expensive ones cost hundreds of thousands? Liang Yin was a little conflicted. She felt that her wallet was about to be emptied after such a long time. She didn't feel good about it. Forget it. Let's take a look first. It's free to look. These designs don't look good. Show me some nicer ones. The shop assistant muttered, but she couldn't refuse. She said, "Wait for me here." With that, the shop assistant went back to the safe. Just then, another shop assistant walked over, looking a little nervous. "Did you see the sapphire ring on display in cabinet A? What's wrong?" The shop assistant also became alert. "Don't tell me, that woman is really a thief. The sapphire ring is gone." The two of them walked to cabinet A, and indeed, the sapphire ring on display was gone. The two of them were dumbfounded. "It can't be. I was watching her just now. She passed by cabinet A, but I didn't see her touch it. What do you know? Some thieves are so good at stealing that they can steal things without anyone noticing. Don't let her go. Ask her clearly and I'll ask the store manager. I'm afraid she's been released." "Okay." The shop assistant turned back and walked to Liang Yin. Seeing that she had returned empty-handed, Liang Yin was a little puzzled. Didn't you go to get your cufflinks? The safe isn't open. Look at the others." When Liang Yin heard this, she thought that the shop assistant thought that she couldn't afford it and was patronizing her. She was angry and said angrily, "Forget it. I'm not buying any more." She would go to the other counters to take a look. Didn't Qin Zhou like Versace's brand too? When she passed by, she saw the Versace brand. On the way here, she went online to find out more about the brand's logo. Seeing that Liang Yin was about to leave, the shop assistant stopped her. "You cannot leave." The shop assistant was so excited that she grabbed Liang Yin's wrist. Liang Yin struggled for a moment, and her face turned ugly. "What are you doing? Why aren't you letting him go? Didn't you say you wanted to buy cufflinks for your boyfriend?" "That's right. But you don't show me the good stuff. The designs outside don't look good. Don't go yet." That was all the shop assistant said. She looked around and looked at her colleagues. "What do you mean?" After a while, the store manager and his colleagues hurried over, looking flustered. "The sapphire ring is gone. He's really gone." When the shop assistant heard this, she was furious and pushed Liang Yin fiercely. "Take out the ring." Liang Yin was confused. After being pushed, she staggered back a few steps and almost fell. She was furious. "What are you doing? A sapphire ring is missing from our counter. Did you steal it?" the shop assistant asked angrily. "Ha!" Liang Yin laughed. So she was being treated as a thief. Chapter 3966. However, the shop assistant said righteously, "From the beginning until now, there was no one else in the counter other than you. If you didn't steal it, who else could it be?" Liang Yin was furious. In her mind, thieves were like rats crossing the street. Anyone would be angry if they were treated as a thief for no reason. She was so angry that she was trembling all over, but she tried her best to maintain her composure. She asked calmly, "Then do you have evidence? If you don't, you're framing me. We'll know once we search you." The shop assistant said. "Search me?" When Liang Yin heard this, she was so angry that she laughed. "Do you know the law? What right do you have to search me? You're not the police. What right do you have to search me?" When she said this, the shop assistant thought that she was guilty. "Are you feeling guilty? Are you scared out of your wits when you heard that we're going to search you? What's there to be scared of? I didn't steal it, but you don't have the right to search me. Also, don't tell me you have surveillance cameras. You can just check the surveillance footage. The surveillance footage belongs to the mall. Without the police's permission, we don't have the right to check it. After a pause, the shop assistant said, I advise you to take out the things you stole quickly. Otherwise, we'll call the police. When the police come and prove that you've stolen, you'll have a criminal record. Do you understand? Liang Yin was so angry that she was trembling all over. A sense of humiliation welled up in her. She said firmly, anyway, I didn't take it, so you don't have the right to detain me. You can call the police. With that, she was about to leave. Seeing that she was about to leave, the shop assistant was even more certain that she had a guilty conscience. She wanted to leave quickly and move the stolen goods elsewhere, so she immediately stopped her. There's a thief. One of the shop assistants shouted. The shop assistants at the other counters happened to be idle. When they heard this, they immediately gathered around. Soon, the Bulgari counter was filled with people. Some of them were passers-by. Some of them were the shop assistants at the other counters. When they heard that someone had stolen something, they immediately rushed over to watch the commotion. In an instant, Liang Yin looked around. Many people were glaring at her and pointing at her. Their faces were full of disgust, which made her self-esteem suffer a huge blow. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was a very strong-willed person and never shed tears easily. However, she felt extremely humiliated to be treated as a thief and in front of so many people. However, even though she felt angry and humiliated, she still straightened her back and wiped away her tears. She said coldly, "Please call the police now. I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm not afraid of ghosts knocking on my door. It's the same even if the police come." "Fine. You're so stubborn. Since you said you want to call the police and aren't afraid of embarrassing yourself, then what are we afraid of? Anyway, if something is missing, they will definitely report it to the police. Just wait for your record." The shop assistant made a phone call the police. The shop assistants looked at each other with impatience written all over their faces. If he stole it, so be it. Can't he just take it out? He had already been caught. What else did he want? Chapter 3967. The store manager looked like she was very easy to talk to. The other store assistants also stepped forward to speak. Previously, there was a thief who came to our store to steal jewelry. We caught him red-handed and called the police. Because the amount involved was huge, he was sentenced to 7 years. Bulgari's items are not cheap. The store manager hurriedly said, "This sapphire ring is worth more than 900,000. The amount involved is huge, so you have to think carefully." Liang Yin was fearless. "I didn't take it. You can call the police. If it's verified that you're slandering us, I'll go through legal proceedings and sue you for violating my rights." The store assistant who received her heard this and spoke without thinking, "Who are you trying to scare? We're framing you. Don't bluff too much." A store assistant from the Chanel store next door walked over and tugged at her sleeve. "She doesn't look guilty at all. Could it be that you're framing her?" "Not guilty. That's all an act. Didn't you see just now? If we hadn't stopped her, she would have left. If she's not guilty, then what is she? Also, you didn't see how she trembled when she heard that we were going to do a body search. If she's not guilty, then what is she?" After a while, the police arrived. Usually, there would be police stationed next to the shopping mall. 5 minutes after the police call, the police would rush over. Seeing that the police had arrived, the store assistant immediately went up to them and gave them a brief account of the situation. "She stole a sapphire ring from our store." Liang Yin was furious. "I didn't." 2 police officers came. One was in charge of recording and the other was in charge of questioning. The police officers walked over and pointed the camera at her. The other one questioned, "They said you stole something. Are you going to say that you're going to search me? The police officer smiled and was considered to be more amiable. We won't. We don't have a search warrant, so we don't have the right to do a body search. Liang Yin pursed her lips when she heard this. Thank you. The store assistants couldn't sit still when they heard this. Officer, she's the only one in the store since just now. There's no one else. She must have stolen it. Before she came, I still saw the sapphire ring. When I looked at it just now, it's gone. Don't the police have the right to check the surveillance footage? Liang Yin paused and asked, there must be surveillance cameras in this counter, right? Why don't we just take a look at it? The shop assistant was a little anxious. You just don't want to let us search you because you're guilty. Liang Yin said loudly, get your facts straight. It's not that I'm guilty. It's just that you don't have the right to do so. All right. Stop arguing. Seeing that they were arguing, the police officer snorted and said to the shop assistant, have you checked properly? Could it have been put away or something? Most people wouldn't dare to touch such an expensive item. We've checked, but there's nothing. All right, let's go to the surveillance room and retrieve the footage. The shop assistants and the store manager had no objections. Hence, the police officers brought the store manager and Liang Yin to the mall's surveillance room. When they entered the surveillance room, they showed their police badges, and the police officers instructed the security guards to retrieve the surveillance footage of the Bulgari counter. They adjusted the footage to the moment after Liang Yin entered the counter and watched the footage frame by frame. Chapter 3968. Because she was standing sideways, all that could be seen was her raising her hand. Then, she glanced at the price tag and quickly put it down, returning the ring to its original position. However, because of the angle, it was not clear whether she had put it back or not. Seeing this, the store manager started to make a big fuss about it. So you did touch this ring. Liang Yin was naturally honest. I saw it because I thought it was pretty. But when I saw the price tag, I thought it was too expensive. I was afraid that I would damage it, so I put it back. The store manager was obviously convinced that she had stolen something. From this angle, who knows if you really put it back or not? We only saw you pick it up, but we didn't see you put it back. Look, the store manager pointed at the screen and said, you're obviously bluffing. Actually, you didn't put it back, did you? Actually, the item is still on you. Liang Yin was furious. How would I know where the surveillance cameras are? Maybe you've overstepped the mark. Don't be unreasonable. Aren't you obviously trying to search me? Liang Yin was obviously exasperated as well. Let me tell you, if you want to search me, I won't give it to you. The store manager was furious when he heard this. He pointed at her and complained to the police officer, Officer, take a look, take a good look. What's with her attitude? She's not cooperating with the investigation at all. Liang Yin retorted, am I a criminal? Why should I cooperate with your investigation? The police officer chided, both of you, stop arguing. Calm down. This matter couldn't be concluded based on just a few actions. Aren't you pushing it a little too far if you want to convict her like this? As he spoke, the police officer turned around and advised Liang Yin, Miss, I'm sure you've seen the video. Indeed, from this angle, we couldn't have seen you put the item back in its original position. Of course, we don't have the right to search you, but if you're willing to cooperate with us, you can prove that you're innocent. What's wrong with that? Let us check your belongings. If you really don't have anything, you just have to cooperate with us to make a statement and you can go home. Nothing will happen. Liang Yin insisted, I'm only following the rules. Unless you have a search warrant, I promise to cooperate with you. If not, no one has the right. This is also my right. You have no right to violate it. The store manager panicked. Stop putting on an act. Don't you know whether you took it or not? Quickly take it out. Although this sapphire ring wasn't the most expensive one in the store, it was still worth a few 100,000 yuan. If it disappeared for no reason, the store manager would also be held responsible, and he would lose his golden rice bowl. Of course she was anxious. She might even have to pay for it. How could she afford something that cost hundreds of thousands? As a result, his emotions began to rise. Liang Yin's attitude was still firm. Give up. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would humiliate myself? I'm clearly innocent, so why should I be searched? Only criminals are searched, right? The store manager also clamored, if you're innocent, then why do you look so guilty? Just take out your belongings for us to see. If you really don't have anything, who would be willing to waste time on you? Chapter 3969. Liang Yin was furious. She pursed her lips. She wanted to cry, but she held it in and swallowed her grievances. If she were to show weakness in front of such a person, that would be the greatest insult to her. The two of them continued to waste time. The police were in charge of looking at the surveillance footage. After looking at it, other than the one suspicious point, they couldn't find any problems. They were at their wits' end. Could it have fallen into a corner? The policeman proposed such an idea. The store manager immediately said, that's impossible. There can't be a blind spot. Liang Yin retorted, who knows if you stole it? The store manager retorted angrily, watch your mouth. Liang Yin ignored her and sat down on the chair with her back facing the store manager. She didn't say a word. No matter how the store manager tried to provoke and humiliate her, she tried her best to look indifferent. Soon, the regional manager rushed over. When he heard that a ring was missing, he appeared anxious and reprimanded the store manager. Why is a ring missing all of a sudden? What's going on? The store manager pursed her lips and gestured at Liang Yin, who was sitting at the table. She said sarcastically, I suspect that she stole it. The regional manager glanced at Liang Yin and threw a question at the store manager. Do you have any evidence? No, that's bullshit *T. The regional manager said harshly, if this ring is gone, you can pack your bags and get lost. I can't protect you anymore. The store manager bit her lip and watched the regional manager leave. When she looked at Liang Yin again, her eyes were filled with resentment. It's all your fault. Without any warning, she suddenly pounced on Liang Yin and gave her 2 tight slaps on the face without any explanation. You must have stolen it. Liang Yin wasn't one to be taken advantage of. Not to be outdone, she retaliated with a slap. Don't be unreasonable. The store manager was obviously worried that she would lose her job. She grabbed her clothes and wanted to force her to hand over the ring. You're not willing to let us search it because you have a guilty conscience. You're not willing, right? This is not up to you. As he spoke, he reached out to touch her pocket. The two of them started to wrestle. However, the store manager was obviously anxious. After a while, Liang Yin was at a disadvantage and was pushed to the ground. Her hair was messy and she was in a sorry state. Covering her burning face, she still stubbornly refused to shed a single tear. The police hurriedly came up to stop them and finally separated the two of them. The store manager shouted, "Officers, she's the thief. Take her back to the police station for investigation. Search her body. I guarantee you'll find something." Liang Yin's eyes were red as she glared at her fiercely. Once again, she explained hoarsely, "I didn't." After saying that, he was so angry that his whole body trembled. At this moment, his phone suddenly rang. Liang Yin realized that the voice came from her bag. She took out her phone and saw the name Qin Zhou. At that moment, for some reason, tears fell helplessly from her eyes. Cry. You're still crying. What right do you have to cry? Liang Yin ignored her. She didn't want to pick up Qin Zhou's call. After all, she was in such a sorry state and she didn't want him to see her in such a sorry state. However, Qin Zhou called again. Liang Yin guessed that something must have happened, so she picked up the call. Chapter 3970. Liang Yin held her breath but didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou sensed that something was amiss from her heavy breathing. What's wrong? Are you crying? Liang Yin knew that she couldn't hide it any longer. She covered her mouth and choked out, I'm fine. Qin Zhou was sure that she was crying. He knew that she had been wronged. His tone wasn't anxious as he asked gently, what happened? Tell me. Liang Yin didn't want to talk about it. However, Qin Zhou was very capable. His tone was gentle and extremely patient. Soon, Liang Yin's psychological defenses were completely broken. I didn't steal anything, she choked out, I really didn't. Why don't you believe me? Qin Zhou finally felt a little nervous. Where are you? I'll come over right away. Seeing that she was stammering, the store manager didn't think twice before snatching her cell phone and speaking into the microphone. Hello, I'm the store manager of the Bulgari counter. May I know how you are related to her? Liang Yin panicked and reached out to snatch her cell phone back. However, the next second, she heard the store manager's suspicious tone. Are you her boyfriend? Boom, it was as if something had exploded in her head. She widened her eyes in shock. Qin Zhou, what did he say over the phone? He claimed to be her boyfriend. She found it hard to believe. In any case, come over here. Your girlfriend is suspected of stealing jewelry and is being detained by the police. The store manager told him the address. 20 minutes later, Qin Zhou arrived very quickly. He had been driving past the department store and had wanted to ask Hua Jin and Liang Yin out for dinner to discuss the contract signing. He had made a call, but when he heard that something had happened, he immediately turned around and rushed over. Qin Zhou pushed open the office door and saw the layout of the room. The police stood beside the surveillance camera while the store owner crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking very arrogant. Meanwhile, Liang Yin was slumped on a chair. Her messy hair covered half of her face and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, she was curled up and looked very lonely, like a frightened rabbit. When the store manager saw Qin Zhou, he was shocked. Qin Zhou was wearing a suit. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell at a glance that he was an elite. He was handsome, tall, and had an inviolable aura. For some reason, his appearance made the store manager feel a little guilty. Was this her boyfriend? He seemed to be a wealthy and respectable person. With such a boyfriend, the suspicion of stealing was not high. However, there were also rich people who stole things. Perhaps this woman had some special fetishes. Thinking of this, she forced herself to calm down. Qin Zhou didn't even look at the others. He walked straight to Liang Yin and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Liang Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. She finally raised her head and looked at Qin Zhou. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they refused to fall. She didn't dare to look at him, afraid that he would see her in such a sorry state. Qin Zhou raised his head and finally glanced at the others. He snorted coldly and said, "Can anyone explain this to me?" Just as the police were about to say something, the store manager beat them to it and explained the ins and outs of the matter clearly. When Qin Zhou heard this, he sneered, obviously disdainful. Chapter 3971. The store manager was speechless. Very well. Qin Zhou said politely, "Get your manager here." "Our manager?" The store manager said, "Chase our regional manager away." "I didn't mean the regional manager." Qin Zhou said again, "Get your general manager here." The store manager said tactfully, "We don't have the authority." Qin Zhou smirked. "Oh, is that so?" He sent a text message. After about 10 minutes, the general manager of the mall rushed over. I was wondering who it was." "So it's CEO Qin. What can I do for you, Boss Qin, for?" The store manager and the police officer were completely dumbfounded. Especially the store manager, his mouth was so big that it could fit an entire egg. In the past, the big shots who were high and mighty in front of them had to bow and scrape in front of this man. Who exactly was this man? Qin Zhou was a man of few words. He only said, "My girlfriend was arrested as a thief when she was shopping in your mall. Now, your store manager wants to do a body search. What do you think?" When the manager heard this, his face turned a little pale. He turned around and questioned the store manager, "What's going on?" The store manager said submissively, "I suspect that she stole something and hid it on her body. I want to check her, she stole something." The manager was dumbfounded. "Who is she?" "She works for CEO Qin. Why would she need to steal?" "You must be kidding me." But after she touched the sapphire ring, it disappeared without a trace. "It's normal for me to be suspicious." The store manager tried his best to explain himself. When Qin Zhou heard this, he found it interesting. What a normal person. He continued casually, "It's not that I can't do a body search. My girlfriend is suspected and I have to prove my innocence. If the results show that I'm guilty, I'll bear all the consequences and responsibilities. But if I'm not, I'll have to trouble your mall to give a reasonable explanation and compensation. Also, Qin Zhou's gaze suddenly fell on the store manager. "Get out of here." His tone was calm, but there was an air of authority about it. When the store manager heard this, he was nervous and unhappy. No matter how big of a figure he was not the management of this mall. What right did he have to say that he should get lost just because he was told to? However, the mall manager knew that he couldn't afford to offend a ruthless person like Qin Zhou. Thus, he quickly smiled and said, "Why do you need to search me? You're making a mountain out of a molehill. We're not the ones making a big deal out of nothing." Qin Zhou naturally categorized Liang Yin as the same as him. When Liang Yin heard this, she did not say anything. However, with Qin Zhou around, she felt an inexplicable sense of security. Even though she had Qin Zhou's support, she still explained, "I came to the counter because I wanted to buy some jewelry, but the staff at the counter obviously didn't want to serve me. Just as I was about to leave, I was stopped. They said that they suspected me of stealing, but I said I didn't steal, so I really didn't steal. If I had stolen, I wouldn't have been able to get away with it. If it's not mine, I shouldn't take it. Even a child knows this." After a pause, she continued, "Similarly, respecting a person's character and dignity is a basic principle. Doesn't your mall have this basic principle?" This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. Chapter 3972. This was a serious matter, but it was a human rights issue. The manager did not dare to be negligent. Although Qin Zhou had said that he was willing to be searched, the problem was, did he dare to? Qin Zhou's gaze was cold. If one were to use an idiom to describe the expression on his face, it was frighteningly gloomy. It was a kind of coldness that Liang Yin had never seen before. When Qin Zhou said that she was willing to cooperate with the search, she didn't feel sad at all. She knew that Qin Zhou wouldn't let her suffer any losses. At that time, if he was really searched, not only would the store manager be fired, he would also lose his official position. Even if this woman really stole hundreds of thousands of yuan worth of jewelry, he would not dare to search her. If he really found something, he would offend Qin Zhou even more. Hence, the manager naturally wanted to turn the tide. "CEO Qin, this is our fault. We are very sorry that this lady had a bad shopping experience. We will definitely improve our service standards in the future. At the same time, we absolutely believe that this lady is absolutely innocent. We will definitely not do a body search. Please rest assured. The store manager was hesitant. But... Manager, shut up. The manager turned to her and scolded, "You work at the Bulgari counter, right? As the store manager, don't you know the purpose of the counter? That is to respect the customers. How on earth did a person like you become a store manager? From today onwards, you are no longer the store manager of Bulgari. Pack your bags and get lost." The store, shut up. The manager was afraid that she would speak too much and offend Qin Zhou. If she said another word, he would strangle her to death. The store manager had some foresight. When she saw the manager's fierce gaze, she immediately understood that even if this woman really stole the jewelry, there was nothing she could do. At this moment, the store manager heard her cell phone ring. She was puzzled. She picked up her cell phone and saw that it was a call from one of the employees. She walked to the side and answered the call quietly. As soon as the call connected, she heard the excited chatter of the employees. "Store manager, we found the ring." "Huh?" The store manager did not react in time. What was going on? Didn't they say that the ring was missing? How did they find it again? What was going on? Her mind was blank, as if it had been bombed by an atomic bomb. Oh, it's Lin Lin. The ring fell into the gap of the ring holder. She looked for it for a long time but could not pry it open. It's here, it's here. This was great news. The store manager's face turned pale. The ring. She found it. Could it be that they had really wrongly accused someone? This was not good. The manager also heard something and quickly winked at the store manager, telling her not to say anything. The store manager understood what was going on, so he didn't say anything. However, Qin Zhou's ears were sharp, and he caught the slightest hint of rustling grass in the wind. "Oh, you found the ring." Found, didn't find," the store manager tried to evade him. Qin Zhou asked her further, "You find it or not find it, not find it? Make it clear." Chapter 3973. CEO Qin, let's end this matter here. Regardless of whether the ring was found or not, we'll take responsibility for this loss. The manager hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "You must be tired after rushing all the way here. Come, let me treat you to a cup of tea in the office." "There's no need for that." Qin Zhou pushed him aside and shot a cold glare at the store manager. "Did you think that you could fool me with such a petty trick like diverting my attention?" He said slowly, "I heard over the phone that the ring was found. How are you going to explain this matter?" The manager's face turned red and his body stiffened. The store manager didn't know what to do and stood there in a daze. Liang Yin heard it too. She turned her face away angrily and clenched her fists. However, when she heard that the ring was finally found, she felt relieved. The police officer was also asking for a snub. He stood at the side and smoked. They didn't have much to say in this situation. The manager hardened his heart and said firmly, "I will definitely give you a perfect explanation for this matter, CEO Qin." "Oh, then I'll wait and see." In the end, the matter ended with a public apology and financial compensation. Naturally, the store manager couldn't keep his position. Even the manager had to bear the consequences of reporting the matter. Liang Yin didn't know how the matter was resolved. She sat in the reception room the whole time and was served good tea and snacks. The people in the public relations department were trembling in fear, afraid that they would miss out on anything. When Qin Zhou came to pick her up and the two of them walked out of the mall, Liang Yin rubbed her red and swollen eyelids and smiled at him. "Thank you, Qin Zhou." Qin Zhou turned around calmly. When he heard her, he asked casually, "Thank me for what? If you hadn't arrived, I wouldn't know how to resolve this matter. You should have told me first." Qin Zhou continued, "If I had stepped in, this matter would have been easy to resolve. I'm just angry." Anger appeared on Liang Yin's face. "What right do they have to search me? I just feel that it's unfair that they thought I was a thief based on a one-sided view. Actually, a body search isn't a big deal to me. I just didn't want them to get away with it." Qin Zhou smiled. "You're extraordinarily stubborn." Liang Yin pursed her lips. She knew that she was a little stubborn. "Why did you want to shop at Bulgari?" Qin Zhou pretended to ask casually. When Liang Yin heard this, she looked away guiltily and stammered, "I'm just bored, so I came to shop." As she said this, she sighed in her heart. In the end, she didn't find the cuff links for him. "I see." Qin Zhou chuckled. "It's true that people will be prejudiced against you if you wear this to Bulgari. After all, the shop assistants at these counters have sharp eyes. They can tell at a glance how much you're wearing and where you bought it. There's also the nouveau riche who's who's. The nouveau riche won't come to Bulgari." "Why?" "Some of them don't even know what Bulgari is. They only know Chanel, Dior, and L'Oréal. Moreover, the more a nouveau riche is, the more he has to wear gold and silver and dress well." When Liang Yin heard this, she raised her eyebrows. "All right. Well, I'm too poor to be looked down upon." Qin Zhou silently glanced at her and slowly smiled. Chapter 3974. Tonight? Was he asking her out? Liang Yin asked curiously, "What's the matter?" "It's about signing a contract. I want to talk to you about it." "Signing a contract?" Liang Yin was really flattered. "Is it, signing a contract with you?" "Yes, with Huan Yu," Qin Zhou replied. Liang Yin pondered for a moment. "Then, will you be my manager?" Qin Zhou heard this and asked with interest, "You want me to be your manager?" Liang Yin nodded her head vigorously. "I think you're very capable and you know how to take care of people. If you're my manager, you'll definitely learn a lot." The most important thing was that she would have more opportunities to interact with him. As the saying goes, the pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. Liang Yin actually wanted to put on an act. It would be even better if she could spend more time with Qin Zhou. Actually, this was the best time to confess her feelings. But, what if she got rejected? Then, it would be very awkward. What if Qin Zhou didn't like her at all? What if she confessed to him and he avoided her instead? In any case, she should try to get him to be her manager first. Then, she could naturally cultivate their relationship. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. There would be more opportunities in the future. Liang Yin muttered in her heart. Seeing that she was in a daze, Qin Zhou didn't say anything. "We'll talk about the details later. Also, there's something I want to tell you. If I become your manager, I'll get a very high commission." "How high?" Liang Yin asked curiously. "For the first contract period, it'll be split in 37. 37. Liang Yin did some calculations. It wasn't too high. If she could get 70%, it would be a considerable amount. Seeing that she didn't seem to take it seriously, Qin Zhou reminded her again. "You get 30%, I get 70%. Qin Zhou raised his eyebrows. "Why? You can't accept it." "No. I'm okay with it." Liang Yin looked nervous, as if she was afraid that Qin Zhou would go back on his word. Qin Zhou blinked his eyes and curled his lips into a smile. It seemed that this girl was really interested in him. He couldn't hide his thoughts at all. However, Qin Zhou did not realize that this smile of his was so charming that Liang Yin was bewitched to the point that she was dizzy. Heavens, heavens, how could there be such a handsome man in this world? It turned out that there really was such a person in this world. When he smiled, it was as if there were stars hidden in his eyes. Liang Yin peeked at him, trying to suppress the love in her heart. There are trees on the mountain and branches on the tree. The heart pleases the Lord, but the Lord does not know. Qin Zhou feigned ignorance. However, how could this shrewd man not see that the girl in front of him had feelings for him? Hey! Why are you two together? When Hua Jin saw Qin Zhou and Liang Yin appear together, he was so shocked that his eyes widened. Then, as if he had discovered some adultery, his eyes narrowed. You! Don't tell me, Liang Yin glared at him. Don't spout nonsense. Hua Jin immediately said aggrievedly, I haven't said anything yet. Why are you feeling so guilty? Liang Yin felt even more guilty after being teased by him. Wasn't she making it obvious that she was trying to hide something? Something happened, Qin Zhou explained. Naturally, Hua Jin had to be concerned. Qin Zhou didn't hide the truth from him and told him the whole story. When Hua Jin heard that Liang Yin had been mistaken for a thief, not only did he not sympathize with her, he even laughed heartlessly. Chapter 3975. You went to the Bulgari counter dressed like that. It would be strange if they didn't think you were a thief. Liang Yin knew that Hua Jin meant no harm, but she still retorted, can you not judge a book by its cover? Can you judge a person based on what they wear? Actually, with your looks, you really don't need to go to Bulgari. Liang Yin was speechless when Hua Jin said that. How was it? Did you get anything today? Hua Jin asked curiously. Did you buy a gift? Liang Yin was stunned. Qin Zhou was interested. What gift? Before Hua Jin could say anything, Liang Yin anxiously rushed over and covered his mouth. Don't say it. Her sudden action shocked Hua Jin. He rolled his eyes at Liang Yin and said helplessly, let go. Liang Yin shushed him. It's a secret, okay? Don't say it. Okay. You can let go now. Qin Zhou sized up the two of them with a meaningful look in his eyes. Don't tell me you have feelings for Liang Yin. On the way back, Hua Jin sat in the front passenger seat and asked curiously, you seem to treat her differently. Don't tell me you have feelings for her. Qin Zhou smiled but did not say anything. You haven't managed an artist for so many years. Now that you say you want to manage Liang Yin, are you planning to support her? Qin Zhou said honestly, whether I want to support her or not depends on her potential. If she doesn't have potential, there's no point in supporting her. Liang Yin said she wants to enter the entertainment industry. It sounds like she wants to be a celebrity. Actually, you're so smart, can't you tell? Qin Zhou did not comment, nor did he try to hide it from Hua Jin. I know. Hua Jin continued, you can tell that she likes you too. Indeed, when you like someone, you can't hide your feelings no matter what. Qin Zhou asked him back, what do you mean by like? I don't understand. What does she like about me? Qin Zhou seemed to be asking her, but at the same time, he seemed to be talking to himself. He really couldn't understand what Liang Yin liked about him. In the past, those women liked him, adored him, and chased after him because he had something they needed. Fame, profit, resources, and exposure. What they could offer was their own bodies. What Qin Zhou could give them was also what they needed. However, what about Liang Yin? What did she like about him, and what did she want from him? Qin Zhou was a very rational person. He was so rational that he would try his best to analyze the situation. However, he couldn't figure out what level Liang Yin's love for him was on. You're handsome. Hua Jin was the first to say, nowadays, girls are picky about looks at first sight. You have the face of a celebrity who can debut. You must have left a good impression. Just based on looks. Qin Zhou couldn't help but smile. Just because of this reason, she can easily talk about love. She's really a young girl who hasn't grown up yet. Hua Jin rolled his eyes helplessly. To her, you're an old bull and she's a young grass. She's still young. Moreover. Chapter 3976. Using rational thinking to explore something as irrational as love, is there a problem in itself? Qin Zhou frowned but didn't say anything. Moreover, Qin Zhou, have you ever loved someone? Do you know what love is? Love isn't just because you have a woman and you've been together. That's love. Actually, I don't think you understand what it means to like someone at all. Hua Jin's words had a huge impact on Qin Zhou's emotions. He didn't count as love. Those women in the past didn't count as love. Qin Zhou came back to his senses and glanced coldly at Hua Jin through the rearview mirror. His tone was obviously unhappy. You seem to be unusually talkative today. Hua Jin also realized that Qin Zhou was impatient, so he laughed and said, I drank too much, don't mind me. Qin Zhou snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. It was dead silent in the car. For Qin Zhou, feelings should be a reason for an equivalent exchange. You give me a sense of security, and I give you warmth. To him, it was just a ritual exchange. The reason why people liked someone was purely because they were lonely. Therefore, they wanted to comfort themselves and fall in love regardless of their own safety. At the end of the day, humans were still selfish creatures. In order to give their feelings something to rely on, they wanted to find someone they liked at all costs to satisfy themselves. Therefore, Qin Zhou had always disapproved of things like feelings. He felt that the real sacred love was too marvelous and dignified to be praised by others. He didn't like to be superficial. The two of them were just looking for what they wanted under the guise of love. Hua Jin asked, do you like her? Qin Zhou didn't say anything. Hua Jin bumped his arm and said, answer my question. He asked in return, if someone likes you, must you reciprocate? Hua Jin laughed and quickly tried to distance himself from her. I didn't say that. Qin Zhou smiled. I don't think I like her. I just feel that she's a little interesting. Sometimes, I also feel that she's very cute. For many years, he hadn't had such a girl who brought him a different kind of joy. Hua Jin snorted and said, if you don't like her, you should break up with her as soon as possible. Based on my understanding of her, she's such a coward. She would never confess to you so early. If this situation continues, she might spend a few years of her youth on you. If you don't like her, don't waste her time. However, I feel that feelings can still be nurtured. I feel that Liang Yin isn't bad. Qin Zhou hissed. So, are you trying to matchmake us or dissuade us? I didn't say anything. It's your decision. I'm just a bystander. As he spoke, Hua Jin said enviously, it's so nice that there's still such a simple-minded girl in this world. If you like someone, you'll like him. You'll like him silently, and your heart will fluctuate because of his every move. I haven't felt this way in a long time. Unrequited love was the truest feeling in the world. She liked him. Perhaps because of his smile, the world would suddenly become bright and sunny. Perhaps because of his words, the world would become stormy. Chapter 3977. When Qin Zhou heard this, his gaze went blank for a moment. Liang Yin returned home, took a shower, brushed her teeth and lay on the bed. She opened the gift box on the stool and inside were 3 pink champagne roses. These were the flowers that the restaurant had given her for dinner and Qin Zhou had given them to her. To her, these were undoubtedly gifts from Qin Zhou. She took a vase from the balcony. After washing it clean, she put in some nutrient soil and filled it with water. Then, she carefully placed the 3 champagne roses into the vase. This was the first time in her life that she had received flowers from someone. Even though she knew that roses like these were hard to grow and would wither easily, she still couldn't bear to throw them away. Instead, she took care of them carefully. She placed them on the windowsill. She leaned on the table and stared at the blooming roses in the vase in a daze. This was the time when the roses were at their most beautiful. She was mesmerized for a moment. The next day, she rushed to the set to sign in. As Chin-jo had arranged for her to join the set, the crew members were especially enthusiastic about her. After arranging for her to stay in a hotel, she was pleasantly surprised to find that she was staying in the room next to Hwa Jin's. They were neighbors again. This was good. At least, staying next to Hwa Jin meant that they were more familiar with each other. On the set, to her, everything was unknown and unfamiliar. Although she had acted for Hwa Jin before, now that she had returned to her role, the experience was different. After putting away her luggage, she took out the vase from the tightly wrapped plastic bag and carefully placed it on the windowsill, trying to let it bask in more sunlight. The doorbell suddenly rang. Liang Yin turned around in confusion, thinking that it was Hwa Jin. She immediately went up and opened the door, only to see a stranger. No. She was sluggish for a few seconds before she reacted quickly. She recognized the man in front of her as the general manager she had seen at the department store yesterday. Why are you here? Liang Yin's face quickly revealed a conflicted expression. It was obvious that she was still brooding over what had happened yesterday. She wasn't a petty person, but she wasn't a magnanimous person either. She would easily throw the unpleasant matter to the back of her mind. Liang Yin asked impatiently, "What are you doing?" "Miss Liang, hello. It's like this. For yesterday's unpleasant matter, we would like to sincerely apologize to you once again. This is a small token of our appreciation, we hope you can accept it." As the manager spoke, the assistant behind him respectfully presented a gift box. The assistant opened the gift box and saw that the exquisite packaging was covered with a thick layer of pink rose petals, and in the middle lay a small but extremely bright jewelry box. The reason why it was described as resplendent was because the surface of the box was inlaid with sparkling and translucent crystals. Liang Yin looked at them suspiciously. "What's this?" "This is a small gift from us. We hope you'll accept it." "Intentions? You'll know when you open it." Liang Yin carefully opened the box, only to see a pile of purple pearl earrings inside. Her expression froze. "Jewels. I hope you like it." The manager's expression was as sincere as it could be. However, Liang Yin did not seem to like it, nor was she happy. Chapter 3978. You're just trying to please Chin-jo. For some reason, Liang Yin was a little angry. Actually, be it the Bulgari store manager or the manager of the shopping mall, they were all very nice people. "You don't feel guilty at all for wrongly accusing me. We're sincerely apologizing to you." Liang Yin sneered. "Humph, you're apologizing because you're afraid of Chin-jo. You're afraid that he'll catch up with his drama. You're apologizing not because you respect me, but because you're afraid of taking responsibility." When the manager heard this, he felt very wronged. "Oh my God, isn't that nonsense? Chin-jo already said that you're his woman, how could they dare to offend you? Miss Liang, please understand. You've indeed suffered a lot yesterday and there were many unpleasant things. I hope that you can calm down and don't take this matter to heart." Liang Yin had no choice but to close the door. The manager immediately blocked the door shamelessly. It was obvious that he wouldn't give up until Liang Yin said, "I forgive you." His face was distorted from sticking to the door, but the manager still didn't intend to give up. "Miss Liang, it's like this," the the manager took a deep breath and started to nag. After you and President Chin left yesterday, I deeply understood the seriousness of this matter. We've already issued a notice to fire the store manager of the Bulgari store and will never hire her again. We swear that if something like this happens again. Liang Yin didn't know what he said or how long he had been talking. Anyway, she only felt that there were countless flies buzzing around her ears. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and said impatiently, "Fine, fine, fine, I forgive you. Can you not be like a fly, buzzing around my ear non-stop?" Calluses were about to form on her ears. The manager was wild with joy. "Really? You're really willing to forgive me? As long as you disappear from my sight immediately, I'll forgive you. Please stop bothering me, okay?" As soon as she finished speaking, the manager didn't dare to say anything else. He immediately disappeared from her sight with his assistant. Liang Yin was dumbfounded. She didn't know how terrifying Qin Zhou's pressure was, or if Qin Zhou had already pressured the department store without her knowledge. Otherwise, why would the manager come all the way here to ask for her forgiveness? Qin Zhou. In the room, Liang Yin sat curiously in front of Hua Jin. She was puzzled as to why Qin Zhou had such a terrifying influence. At the mention of Qin Zhou, Hua Jin was obviously a little speechless. "I noticed that your recent topics revolve around him. As the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle." Liang Yin said matter-of-factly, "If I don't understand him, how can I get what he likes?" Qin Zhou used to be a top manager, especially after he made Gu Xingzi famous. Thanks to Gu Xingzi's influence, he managed to get more resources in his hands. Gu Xingzi, Liang Yin was suddenly a little stunned. Didn't Gu Xingzi pass away? Hua Jin sighed as he said this. Chapter 3979. Gu Xingzi was a superstar created by Qin Zhou. Ever since Gu Xingzi's debut, he had never experienced any low points. The two of them made each other what they were, and at the same time, made each other. In private, the two of them put aside their work relationship, but at the same time, they were very close friends. Qin Zhou rarely used the term close friends to describe someone. Gu Xingzi was the same. The relationship between the two of them was no different from that of a family member. Gu Xingzi's death was a huge blow to Qin Zhou. He used to be humorous and loved to joke, but now, he seemed to be a little quiet. It was even difficult for him to open up to others. Gu Xingzi was really the youth of a generation. Hua Jin sighed at the same time. I used to envy Gu Xingzi, but now, I feel that it's a pity for him. I've always heard that he had depression. Is that right? Yes. Hua Jin laughed at himself. Actually, I'm not surprised. This is a playground. As you can see, when you're filming, no matter how bad your mood is, you have to put your heart and soul into the role. I once saw a very popular actress. Before an interview, because of her low EQ, she kept crying in the waiting room. When the cameramen and reporters arrived, she wiped her tears and touched up her makeup. When she faced the camera, she laughed and chatted. When the interview ended, she broke down and cried again. At that time, I felt that such a person's life was really too painful. She couldn't even live her life as she wanted. Then why did she still accept the interview? Because it was her job. Hua Jin continued, when you enter the industry and become famous, it's not up to you to decide whether you want to advance, retreat, or leave. Fortunately, I have a very good manager who can protect me. At least, when I'm feeling down, I don't have to pander to anyone, and I don't have to look at anyone's eyes. It's more free. Yes. Liang Yin asked again, have you thought about when you'll end your acting career? Didn't I tell you before? Hua Jin said, when I earn enough money to travel around the world, I'll decide to quit the entertainment industry. You still have a utopia in your heart. Liang Yin smiled. I thought that everyone in this industry, no matter who they are, would want to strive to be the best. I used to think so too. Hua Jin sighed. But shouldn't people live for themselves? In fact, I'm quite clear about life. Sometimes, no matter how rich you are, you can't get the life you want. I feel that this kind of life is not what I want. So, since I know what I want, why should I be reluctant to leave things that I shouldn't? When Liang Yin heard this, she couldn't help but be a little absent-minded. The next day, Huanyu office building. Qin Zhou specially sent a car to pick up Liang Yin and officially signed the contract. In the conference room, Qin Zhou and a few of Huanyu's higher-ups were all present. Liang Yin sat down and Qin Zhou let her have a look at the contract. Liang Yin also looked at it carefully. When she reached the revenue-sharing part of the agreement, she was a little surprised. Qin Zhou had signed a 50-50 split with the company. Didn't you say, it's a 30-70 split? Qin Zhou smiled and asked, didn't I also say that I won't personally manage artists anymore? Liang Yin was stunned for a moment before she suddenly laughed. You don't keep your word. Chapter 3980. You're going back on your word. You're still pretending to be innocent. Qin Zhou was annoyed and put out his cigarette. Is there a problem? You can bring it up now. After all, we haven't officially signed the contract yet. Any suggestions can still be discussed. You make it sound like I'm signing a contract to sell myself. That's true. Qin Zhou pointed at the contract and said, this is a contract to sell yourself. I'm only concerned about one thing, Liang Yin asked tentatively, if I want to fall in love one day, can I be free to do so? Qin Zhou smiled and said meaningfully, that depends on who it is. Looks like it's really an overbearing contract. You don't even have the basic freedom to fall in love. Qin Zhou snorted. So, it's not too late for you to back out now. Liang Yin pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed the pen and signed her name directly. At the same time, she pressed her thumbprint. Qin Zhou suddenly asked, why do you want to enter this industry? Liang Yin raised her head and looked at him seriously. She answered honestly, I just want to become a better woman. Only by becoming better could she be a match for him. She couldn't muster up the courage to confess because she felt that she didn't have the confidence to be in a relationship with such a good man. Only when they were on the same level could their relationship last longer. Liang Yin felt that she wasn't good enough, so she wanted to work hard to become better. I'm done signing. Qin Zhou saw that she was done signing and took the contract over. He stamped the official seal and signed his name. A few of the higher-ups lowered their heads and looked down. They kept sizing up Qin Zhou and Liang Yin. At first, when they heard that Qin Zhou was going to make a comeback and manage an artist again, they were puzzled. After all, with Qin Zhou's current qualifications, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was highly respected in Huanyu. As an honorary director of Huanyu, he didn't need to manage an artist personally. However, when Qin Zhou mentioned that he wanted to sign Liang Yin, they were puzzled. What kind of artist would make Qin Zhou want to manage her personally? Hence, they wanted to see what kind of newcomer would make Qin Zhou personally come. In the end, looking at it, it seemed like it was not as shocking as they had imagined. In this industry, there were many stunning beauties. Huanyu's #1 actress, Yun Shishir, was considered to be in a semi-retired state. However, with her beautiful looks and heaven-defying acting skills, it was still difficult for anyone to shake her position. However, after Yun Shishir, the female artistes were indeed lacking in stamina. Huanyu's higher-ups also wanted to groom a few more female celebrities as Yun Shishir's successors. Liang Yin was indeed a good choice. But, it wasn't enough to make Qin Zhou personally bring her over. Therefore, some people suspected that there must be something going on. However, Qin Zhou would never sleep with an actress, so there was definitely no relationship between the two of them. Could it be Qin Zhou is interested in Liang Yin? Or was it some special relationship? They couldn't figure it out. Qin Zhou stood up and said, "All right. It's getting late, let's have a meal together." The group immediately agreed with a smile. Chapter 3981. During the dinner, Qin Zhou and Liang Yin finalized a few matters. Before the official announcement of her debut, the packaging team proposed a plan to create hype. Qin Zhou specifically asked for Liang Yin's opinion. After all, as a newcomer and inexperienced, it would be difficult for her to raise the price when she took on scripts and activities in the future. Although Liang Yin's acting skills were good and her acting skills were good, Qin Zhou had also roughly scanned through the scenes that she edited. Her acting skills were indeed on point and she was very intelligent and talented. This point was really commendable. It showed that she had good qualifications and her future potential was limitless. But in this industry, there were a lot of talented people and there was never a lack of talent in acting. Under this premise, she had to make a name for herself before she could get attention. Only by getting attention, could Liang Yin's acting skills and potential be discovered by the audience. Fame in the entertainment industry needed something to talk about. Only with something to talk about would there be exposure. In such a messy industry, exposure was what they really needed to work on. The packaging team proposed to create hype about Liang Yin and Hua Jin's relationship. At first, Qin Zhou did not agree. However, creating hype about a relationship was a tried and tested method. In the entertainment industry, there were not only contractual couples but also contractual couples. As the name implied, they were together for benefits. On the surface, they pretended to be a loving couple, but in reality, they were having their own private affairs. The public relations team repeatedly promised that they would not create any scandals that were too outrageous. Only then did Qin Zhou relent and let the team come up with a proposal. After he read it and found that there were no problems, they would talk about the next step. Before her debut, Qin Zhou had also finalized a training schedule for Liang Yin. Dancing and singing were the two areas that she would focus on. If Liang Yin could be groomed into an all-round artist, that would be the best. In addition, her ability to react on the spot and her acting skills were also part of the training. For this, Qin Zhou specially contacted a famous academic professor to guide Liang Yin. At that time, Liang Yin found out that the professor that Qin Zhou contacted for her cost a lot of money per lesson. It was 6 figures per lesson. She was stunned. 6 figures. What kind of concept was that? It was said that the professor was Li Changde, an honorary professor of Beijing Film Academy. He had groomed 3 best actors and 2 best actresses. In the industry, he was definitely well respected. Many A-list celebrities were in awe of him. Moreover, he was also a consultant for many movies. If it weren't for Qin Zhou's face, even if it was hundreds of thousands per class, he might not have taken a fancy to Liang Yin. There were so many talented newcomers, and not everyone could catch his eye. After finalizing the itinerary, Liang Yin's life began to get busy. She began to travel between the set, the company, and the film academy. She had met Li Zhangde once and performed a set of scenes from the literary film Years Like Water. Li Zhangde was a little surprised when he saw it, but he was not very satisfied. Her acting wasn't bad, but there were a lot of details that were lacking. He thought that Liang Yin was a science student, so he was very strict with her. Seeing that she even had problems with the basic positioning, Li Zhangde criticized her severely. Liang Yin gritted her teeth and accepted it. She did not say anything. She was not a science student. She felt that since it was a class, it would not be bad to be strict. In the end, he was scolded badly by the end of the class. Chapter 3982. This Li Zhangde is too fierce. Every time they returned to the hotel, Liang Yin would start complaining. She knew that Li Zhangde was an excellent mentor. The stricter he was, the better it would be for her. However, Li Zhangde's expectations of her were too high. She had already tried her best, but he was always able to pick out the smallest mistakes in her performance. People aren't born to be good at acting. You're lucky to have such a good mentor like Li Zhangde to help you hone your acting skills. What about me? At this point, Liang Yin couldn't help but be curious. Didn't Qin Zhou hire a mentor to teach you acting? It's not like my previous manager was Qin Zhou. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy such treatment. Hua Jin paused and continued, when I first started, when I wasn't famous, my company wasn't willing to spend so much money on me. The vast majority of companies would rather spend money on plastic surgery for their artists than hire a good teacher. After all, it's fine as long as I'm good-looking. Later on, when I became famous and transferred to Huanyu, I didn't have the spare time to receive acting coaching. When Liang Yin heard this, she couldn't help but be suspicious. Have you had plastic surgery before? No. I didn't say that I have. Liang Yin felt that it was unbelievable. She couldn't help but reach out to touch his facial features. Then, she reached out and pinched Hua Jin's nose hard. Ah! It hurts. Hua Jin was in so much pain that he wanted to slap her hand away. Liang Yin tried to pinch his chin again. Yes, it was solid. It was obviously not hyaluronic acid. I really didn't have plastic surgery. Finally, this doubt was cleared up. Hua Jin's looks belonged to the category that defied the natural order. Everyone said that Hua Jin was a classic handsome man. When it came to acting in ancient costumes, Hua Jin said that he was the second best. No one would dare to say that they were the best. There was no doubt that he was the #1 handsome man in ancient costumes. Therefore, there were many speculations about him. Many people suspected that he had undergone plastic surgery. Hua Jin was too lazy to answer the reporters' questions. Occasionally, he would pinch his face to express his disdain. So your facial features are real. Liang Yin had always suspected that he had undergone plastic surgery. After all, there were often celebrities in this industry who had undergone plastic surgery. It wasn't unreasonable for her to be so suspicious. Hua Jin glanced at her. I even suspected that you had plastic surgery. What kind of world is this now? Do people suspect plastic surgery just because they're good-looking? Because that's the trend now. There are too many people who have undergone plastic surgery. That's true. However, I don't know why plastic surgery is becoming more and more popular now, but why do so many people who have plastic surgery look like monsters who came out of the abortion line? As Liang Yin spoke, she felt a little puzzled. Say, in the past, when plastic surgery was first developed, those who underwent plastic surgery were more natural and exquisite. Now that I look at it, they all have the same face. They had a snake-like face, cheeks that seemed to have been shaved by a knife, a chin that looked like a shoehorn, large eyes, and a high nose. Liang Yin didn't reject plastic surgery. Everyone had the right and freedom to become a beautiful person. However, wouldn't it be creepy if they all had the same face? Chapter 3983. Yang Mi has had plastic surgery. She had thought that Yang Mi was born with it, but it was true that Yang Mi had indeed become invisible recently. Hua Jin nodded. Yes, most people in the industry have had plastic surgery to look better on camera. I think her lips look a little unnatural, but if you don't look closely, there's nothing wrong with them. Hua Jin began to reveal, her lips have had surgery to make them pouty. She even had a smile at the corner of her mouth. Her dimples were also done through surgery. Liang Yin was speechless. Then, she started to gossip. Has Yun Shishir had plastic surgery before? What do you think? I think she's very pretty and her facial features are very natural. It doesn't look like she's gone under the knife. Most importantly, I feel that her temperament is really good. She's a goddess. Of course. Shirshir is a natural beauty. For some reason, when Liang Yin praised Yun Shirshir, Hua Jin was especially pleased. He was even happier than when she praised himself. I've seen her in The Green Apple. Although at that time, teen films were always criticized, this movie between her and Gu Xingze is simply a classic teen film. I don't think anyone can surpass it. Hua Jin said, a good script, a good cast, good post-production, good publicity, and the audience's support. All these factors combine to make this movie a success. Her acting is more natural and there's no feeling of pretense. It's easy to get into her role. When she cries, I can even feel her real heartache. Just like Yang Mi's crying scene, it feels like she's moaning for no reason. There were many scenes where I felt that she couldn't cry and just squeezed out a few tears to appease the audience. Ha ha ha. Hua Jin couldn't stop laughing. Actually, I don't hate Yang Mi, but I don't like her either. But as you said, I still have to prove her innocence. What? In the past, Yang Mi's acting skills were very good. After all, she was an acting student and was also Su Ke's favorite student. When she first debuted, her acting skills were still very good. Later on, perhaps because there were too many fillers on her face, her expression became more stiff. Moreover, her MAC is filled with hyaluronic acid. Her crying and laughing are not very natural and look fake. It's not because of her acting skills. If that's the case, then I've wronged her. She sighed. The female celebrities from the previous generation are the ones who are truly peerless. That's the filter of that era. It's blurry and hazy, and the facial lines aren't very deep. If we were to use high-definition cameras to take pictures, the pimples and acne would all be exposed. As he spoke, Hua Jin continued, however, I pay more attention to temperament. I think that in terms of temperament, no one can compare to our Shirshir. Good, good. Your Shirshir is the most beautiful and has the best temperament. That's the truth. The two of them chatted in the room and even finished memorizing the script. Perhaps it was too boring, the two of them started gossiping and only went to bed when it was very late. Li Zhangda's class was held once a week. Qin Zhou obviously spent a lot of money on Liang Yin. One class cost 100,000 yuan. It was said that Qin Zhou was a big shot and gave her a friendly discount. Chapter 3984. Initially, Li Zhangda was moved by Qin Zhou's sincerity. Later on, he really felt that Liang Yin was a good seedling, so he taught her seriously. During the 5th period, Liang Yin thought that she would have to spend another period in Li Zhangda's bubble. She did not expect Li Zhangda to praise her for the first time. You acted well. Li Zhangda gave such a comment. When Liang Yin heard it, she was instantly overjoyed. Don't underestimate these words. Coming from Li Zhangda's mouth, it was a huge compliment. But don't be too smug. Li Zhangda muttered, young people, don't get complacent just because of a little praise. Keep your cool and think about the details. It's rare for you to praise me. Can't you let me be happy for a while? Liang Yin said coquettishly. After a few classes, she left a good impression in front of Li Zhangda. Li Zhangda also gradually liked this humble student. She did not hold back and gave everything she had. The profession of acting is actually derived from dramas. In the past, when there were no dramas or movies, a stage was set up. A few people dressed in clothes would sing and dance on it, and the audience would be entertained. Later on, the film industry in China started to develop. The first drama, A Mouthful of Vegetable Pancakes, was filmed, and there was such a beginning. After a pause, Li Zhangda continued, life is like a play, and a play is like life. A truly good actor can act out all kinds of situations in the world. Whatever he or she acts, he or she can act out. Aside from some people having talent, most of them have to learn. Look, in the past, there was an artist who, in order to draw a good character, sat on a chair on the street and observed the expressions of everyone passing by. Only then could he draw out the spirit of the character. First of all, you have to know what you are acting as and what you look like. For example, if you are acting as a police officer, you have to portray that righteousness. Carefully analyze the character's personality and expression. Through daily observation, life experience is also an important part. Otherwise, why would some people go to a mental hospital to experience mental illness for a few weeks? Li Zhangde continued, also, the most important thing is that you have to understand the script, carefully understand the character's psychology, and be immersed in the character. To be an actor, one must first get into character. Otherwise, it would be impossible to expect the audience to get into character. Also, you're still lacking in the basics of your lines. You should practice more. You should know that none of my students use post-production dubbing. It's only in China that we have dubbing actors. In the past, the foreign dubbing actors were all actors. When they dubbed for animations and foreign translated films, they would read their own lines. In China, look at the youngsters nowadays. Some of them can't even speak Mandarin well and come to act. What a disgrace. It was obvious that Mr. Li was dissatisfied with the current entertainment industry. After listening to his complaints, Liang Yin ended the class for the day. Qin Zhou happened to be free, so he took her back to the hotel. Along the way, Liang Yin was very happy. She boasted to Qin Zhou, "Today, the teacher performed for me. He said that I've improved a lot." Qin Zhou laughed. "That's a good thing." "That's right. You don't know how difficult it is to get him to perform alone." As Liang Yin spoke, she probed, "Say, this class costs 100,000 yuan. Are you going to pay for it?" "The company will pay." Chapter 3985. The company will pay for it. Then, Liang Yin was a little worried. What if I can't earn it back? Qin Zhou smiled. The artists I take care of only earn too much. There's no such thing as not earning enough money. Usually, packaging a newcomer, from debut to fame, will cost at least a few million. This is nothing. You don't have to worry about it. Liang Yin swore, "I will act well and not let you down. The most important thing is not to let yourself down." Okay. A week after signing the contract, the signing fee was transferred to Liang Yin's account on time. Early in the morning, Liang Yin had just woken up when she heard a ding from her phone. She picked up her phone and saw that there was a message showing that money had been transferred to her account. She opened it to take a look and was so shocked that she sucked in a breath of cold air. So much money, she had thought that 1 million was already a sky-high price. She did not expect Qin Zhou to be so generous. Just the signing fee alone was 5 million. 5 million for a newcomer. What kind of concept was that? Hua Jin's signing fee was only 100,000. It was obvious that he had good potential and could be packaged into a money tree in the future. It was impossible for a normal newcomer to sign a contract with a company like Huanyu. Even if they were to sign a contract, most of them would be supported by rich people. Moreover, Huanyu would be given a considerable amount of packaging fee to package the artist. Liang Yin was the only one who had made her debut with nothing and even received a signing fee of 5 million yuan. Liang Yin was so shocked that she was dumbstruck. She called Hua Jin. Holding her phone, she said in surprise, "Hua Jin. I'm rich. 5 million. When Hua Jin found out that she had received a signing fee of 5 million, he was envious and jealous. He said angrily, "How can a newcomer like you get a signing fee of more than 5 million? Ah! Jealousy makes people ugly." Liang Yin smiled and said, "Are you envious?" But it's really strange. Did Qin Zhou open the back door? Why do you say that? Because, Qin Zhou said incredulously, when Gu Xing's signed with Huan Yu, he only got 10 million. You're equivalent to half of his. But at that time, he had just debuted. In that era, 10 million was far more valuable than 10 million now, right? That's true. After a pause, Hua Jin continued, however, in the current market, there are almost no newcomers who can get this amount of signing money. He said suspiciously, could it be that Qin Zhou has an unspoken rule, don't talk nonsense? Liang Yin snorted. Are you jealous? Could it be that Qin Zhou is interested in you? Liang Yin blushed. How is that possible? Why not? Then I really can't figure out why Qin Zhou would give you so much for signing the contract. All right. Don't dwell on this issue. I don't care. Everyone who saw it has a share. Give me 2 million. No. Stingy. Hua Jin said eloquently, if I didn't bring you into this industry, would you have so much money? How does it feel to become a nouveau riche overnight? Liang Yin held her phone like it was a treasure. It feels like I've become a nouveau riche overnight. When you debut, you'll earn even more. Chapter 3986. Who would want to have a feast like yours? Hua Jin paused for a moment and immediately smiled. Unless it's a year-long feast. Then it would be reasonable. Liang Yin immediately cried out in grievance, are you a vampire? A year-long feast. Based on your appetite, it's going to be Michelin every day. How can I survive? I don't care. 1 month. Half a year. 2 months. Half a year. 3 months. Hua Jin raised his eyebrows and slammed the table. All right, deal. Liang Yin was stunned. He wasn't going to call her that. She seemed to, she had been tricked. But since she had said it, she had to do it. The next day, Liang Yin immediately made an appointment with Hua Jin and Qin Zhou at a restaurant. She planned to treat them to a feast as a celebration. As soon as he heard that Liang Yin had invited Qin Zhou, Hua Jin immediately felt that there was an ulterior motive. Could it be that this guy wanted to use their relationship to get closer to Qin Zhou? Hua Jin's scenes ended early, but Liang Yin's scenes were delayed by the director until very late. This was a small misunderstanding. It turned out that Hua Jin wanted to have an early dinner, so he told the director in advance that he had something to do in the evening and hoped that he could finish his scenes early. In the film crew, this was a privilege that he had. Recently, the director had been quite satisfied with Hua Jin's performance. In addition, he was in a good mood recently and was pleased with his success, so he agreed readily. Who would have thought? The director had scheduled his scenes to be filmed first, but in the end, the scenes of the other supporting roles were delayed. In the end, Liang Yin's scene with the female lead was scheduled for last. By the time they finished filming, it was already past 5 p.m. If Hua Jin hadn't made a call to the restaurant, they wouldn't have been able to keep their reserved seats. In the end, there were even later scenes. Qin Zhou said that he would be late for a company meeting. In the end, they had to wait for an hour. Liang Yin and Hua Jin sat in the dining room and looked around. Seeing that Qin Zhou hadn't come yet, they were a little disappointed. When exactly is he coming? Liang Yin asked Hua Jin curiously, is he always this busy? Yes. Hua Jin nodded and said, after all, Qin Zhou is one of Huan Yu's higher-ups. He's in charge of Huan Yu's affairs, so he must be very busy. I see, Liang Yin lowered her head. At this moment, Hua Jin happened to look past her and saw the woman who walked into the restaurant and slowly walked towards the booth. Isn't this Li Jing? Li Jing. Liang Yin furrowed her brows. That name sounds familiar. I think I've heard it somewhere before. Are you stupid? Hua Jin reminded her, this is the Li Jing who was sent flying by the director before you joined the cast. She was the one who was supposed to play the role of Ubisoft. Ah. I remember now. Is she, the woman you mentioned before who got pregnant and had an abortion, which delayed the filming process? Yes. Liang Yin felt inexplicably guilty and didn't dare to look back. Where did she go? Did she see me? Why are you so guilty? I don't know. It feels weird, she's coming over. As soon as Hua Jin said this, Liang Yin was like an ostrich, lowering her head even more guiltily. Hua Jin was even more depressed. Chapter 3987. Oh, so it's Hua Jin. Even though Hua Jin disliked her, he still smiled politely. Hello. Why are you here? Are you having your meal here too? As Li Jing said this, she turned around and glanced at Liang Yin. Her expression changed. She felt that this woman, who had her head lowered, was strangely familiar, but she couldn't recall her name. After a long while, she suddenly got a shock and her brows furrowed even deeper. It was her. Some time ago, one of the crew members she got to know had sent her a photo that was secretly taken of Liang Yin on the set. One was the side of her face, the other was the front. Even though it was a little blurry, Liang Yin's facial features were still recognizable. Hence, Li Jing recognized at one glance that the woman sitting in front of her was Liang Yin. It's you. Liang Yin. Li Jing immediately curled the corners of her mouth, smiled, and greeted him generously. Seeing that she couldn't hide anymore, Liang Yin could only brace herself and raise her head. She forced a smile and said, Hello. Senior Li Jing. Ha ha ha. I don't think you should call me senior. Li Jing didn't know why, but she felt that the stiff smile on Liang Yin's face was extremely dazzling. It was a little forced, like a smile that wasn't a smile. She even felt that Liang Yin's smile had a hint of malice and mockery. Could it be that she was looking down on her? Or, originally, Li Jing had some groundless guesses about Liang Yin's role as the female lead. However, when she saw Liang Yin smile and the way she deliberately avoided it, she felt that it was extremely strange. You. Just the two of you. Hua Jin immediately said, We even invited Qin Zhou. But he'll be a little late. We're waiting for him. So it's President Qin. But Hua Jin, why did you bring Liang Yin along when you're having a meal with your manager? Hua Jin immediately said, Liang Yin is also an artist under Qin Zhou. What is it? Li Jing immediately looked surprised. Didn't Qin Zhou already say that he won't be personally leading people? Why did you sign another artist now? Hua Jin immediately turned lukewarm. I'm not qualified to ask about CEO Qin's matters. Hearing this, Li Jing also felt awkward. She casually said something and smiled at Liang Yin. Aya, you're so lucky to be with President Qin. With that, he immediately left with his tail between his legs. Hua Jin had said that to protect Liang Yin. On one hand, he was reminding Li Jing that Liang Yin was Qin Zhou's woman and she shouldn't be disrespectful. On the other hand, he was telling her that they didn't welcome her. Li Jing looked very embarrassed. Liang Yin watched Li Jing's departing figure with lingering fear in her heart. She did not say anything. The way Li Jing glared at her just now was so scary. Although he was smiling, the look in his eyes was as if he wanted to cut off a piece of her flesh. It was too terrifying. After Li Jing sat down at a table by the window, she didn't feel good about it. Meeting Liang Yin in this restaurant was totally unexpected. However, when she saw Liang Yin, she felt a sense of humiliation. She had always suspected that her role had been snatched by someone else. She didn't believe that the director would fire her over such a small matter. Someone must have done something behind the scenes. Hence, she started to suspect Liang Yin. She suspected that this unknown newcomer had stolen her role. Chapter 3988. The most important thing wasn't how good the show was. It was because Hua Jin was the main lead and one of the investors was Huan Yu. This meant that from the moment the show was broadcast, it would definitely be on the hit list. Moreover, Huan Yu would spare no expense in promoting the show. This meant that the show would have more exposure and popularity. What she lacked the most was popularity and popularity. What she lacked the most was popularity and popularity. If she could borrow Hua Jin's popularity and gain some popularity, then it would be self-evident that it would be beneficial to her. The role of Gu Bunyo wasn't very important in the show, but she was definitely an important character. Moreover, she had a good personality and would definitely attract a lot of fans. She was counting on this role to take her career to the next level. She hadn't expected that she would have almost completed all the scenes for the role of Gu Bunyo, but in the end, the director had actually fired her. Moreover, all her scenes had been edited out and a new actress had been chosen. This new actress was Liang Yin. How could she not hate her? Li Jing sat in the booth. From her angle, she could see Liang Yin's face. She saw Liang Yin and Hua Jin sitting opposite each other on their phones, as if they were very familiar with Hua Jin. If it had been anyone else sitting in front of Hua Jin, they would have been nervous and at a loss. Just like her. With her status, she didn't have the right to sit at the same table as Hua Jin. Even if she did, she would be trembling with fear, afraid that she would make the slightest mistake and offend Hua Jin. On the other hand, Liang Yin acted as if she and Hua Jin were friends. Li Jing was even more suspicious of her relationship with Qin Zhou. Could it be that Liang Yin and Qin Zhou were very close, so Hua Jin also saw her as a close friend? After all, Qin Zhou was his superior. In that case, one couldn't help but wonder what methods Liang Yin had used to get to the top. Li Jing had been secretly observing them. She saw Hua Jin look at the time and suddenly call the waiter over. After a few words, the waiter started to serve the dishes one after another. It seemed that he didn't intend to wait any longer. The two of them chatted as they ate. Liang Yin looked out of the window from time to time, as if she was waiting for Qin Zhou. Not long after, Li Jing saw Liang Yin stand up and walk towards the bathroom. She also stood up and followed her into the bathroom. Liang Yin walked out of the bathroom. Just as she walked to the sink, she bumped into Li Jing. She was shocked and immediately reacted. The corners of her mouth stiffly twitched. "Senior Li Jing, why are you here? Speak." Li Jing opened her mouth without warning, but her tone was like a judge. "How did you get the role of Ubisoft?" Liang Yin's heart trembled. She said honestly, Hua Jin told me that the role of Abuki is being reselected. He was the one who helped me get the chance to audition." Li Jing didn't go straight to the point either. Instead, she beat around the bush and said sarcastically, "I was wondering why the director sent me away for no reason." "So it's because of you. You stole the role." Liang Yin was a little surprised when she heard this. It sounded as if Li Jing was suspecting that she was the one who had secretly snatched the role. Liang Yin felt that she had been misunderstood and felt a little wronged. Chapter 3989. But the problem was, didn't the director fire her out of anger because she had messed around in the production team and got pregnant and had to go for an abortion, causing many actors in the production team to wait for days in vain? Hua Jin was the one who told her about this, so it should be quite credible. Why did she push all the blame onto her just by opening and closing her mouth? Liang Yin smiled and immediately said, "Senior Li Jing, you're wrong. I didn't steal your role. What right do I have to steal it from you? I didn't use any underhanded means to get this role. A clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. I definitely didn't use any underhanded means to steal your role." With that, Liang Yin was about to leave. However, Li Jing blocked her footsteps with her body. A clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. What a clean conscience is not afraid of a crooked shadow. Then shouldn't you explain why Huan Yu's top manager, Qin Zhou, no longer manages artists and retired behind the scenes? Why did he make a comeback and manage an unknown newcomer like you? At that time, her attitude was still very polite. If this Liang Yin was related to Qin Zhou, she would have a way to back off. Liang Yin pursed her lips and said, "My relationship with CEO Qin isn't what you think. I don't know why he signed me, but it's my honor that he's willing to manage me. Also, CEO Qin is a very nice person. Please respect him and don't speculate about our relationship." Moreover, what was the relationship between her and Qin Zhou? Why should she report it to her? Both of you, Li Jing said coldly, did something happen? You don't have to hide it. Since we're both in this industry, don't think that you can hide your dirty tricks from others. To put it nicely, it's just a fig leaf. Who doesn't know how you got to where you are? But who asked you to have such a pretty face? Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to seduce Qin Zhou. But I'm really envious of you. What kind of man is Qin Zhou? He's so high and powerful. It's your fortune to be able to seduce him. Liang Yin was stunned. She didn't expect Li Jing to speculate about her relationship with Qin Zhou so maliciously. When it came to Qin Zhou, she immediately became serious. Please show some respect. She was extremely protective of Qin Zhou. She didn't want Qin Zhou to be judged as such an ugly person because of her. What? Li Jing smiled. Don't think that I don't know what kind of person Qin Zhou is. When he signed Yun Shishir, I heard that Yun Shishir had done a lot of dirty things in order to get to the top. What a pity for Mu Yaja of Xingyu Financial Group. Such a grand wedding was given to such a filthy woman. He must have been cuckolded by a thick stack. Paw. Liang Yin didn't even think before throwing a slap at her. She said angrily, "You're not allowed to criticize Yun Shishir like that." She had only interacted with Yun Shishir a few times, but she had left a very good impression in her heart. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was a goddess. She had also seen the real Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir. It seemed that they were a very loving couple. She absolutely didn't believe that Yun Shishir was the unscrupulous and promiscuous woman that Li Jing said. Li Jing's blasphemy finally made her explode. Chapter 3990. During the trip to the hot spring, Yun Shishir and Mu Yaja had taken good care of her. Liang Yin also knew what kind of person Yun Shishir was. She was Mu Yaja's wife, the wife of the CEO of the Xingyu Corporation, and the goddess of the entertainment industry. Her status was so high that no one could shake it. Li Jing's blasphemy finally made her explode. She was gauging the heart of a gentleman with her own mean measure. No one would believe that Yun Shishir would ignore Mu Yaja's protection and run off to flirt with another man. It was not that Qin Zhou was not as outstanding as Mu Yaja, but Yun Shishir did not have to do that. Moreover, Qin Zhou and Mu Yaja were close friends. With Mu Yaja's methods, there was nothing that could be hidden from him. He and Qin Zhou were so close, which only proved that there was nothing between Qin Zhou and Yun Shishir. It was one thing for Li Jing to criticize her, but she even humiliated Qin Zhou and Yun Shishir. This was something that Liang Yin could not stand. You're not allowed to humiliate Qin Zhou and Yun Shishir like this. Liang Yin said angrily, "Li Jing, I respect you as my senior, so I've always been very polite to you. But don't take my respect for you as a disrespect. People care about their dignity. Do you think others don't know why you were kicked out of the production team?" Hearing this, Li Jing's face changed and turned ashen. What do you mean by that? Liang Yin snorted and said, "Almost everyone is spreading the news about you fooling around in the production team. There's no smoke without fire. You can't deny this, right?" Li Jing's face darkened. What nonsense are you talking about? Whether it's nonsense or not, you know it in your heart. Do you still need me to say it? Who did you hear this from? Liang Yin did not expose Hua Jin. She subconsciously felt that Li Jing was a rather sinister woman. She had also heard that anyone who could enter the entertainment industry definitely had some tricks up their sleeves. Therefore, she did not dare to reveal what Hua Jin had said. She only said, "It's not just one person who said that. It spread throughout the crew. Everyone doesn't say it on the surface, but in their hearts, they all know why the director sent you flying. So, don't suspect that I'm the one who squeezed you out and stole your role. If you acted well and the director was satisfied, would he need to send you away?" Humph. Li Jing immediately calmed down and sneered, but there was obvious sarcasm. Do you think I don't know? Was the director satisfied? My acting skills are not something a fledgling like you can compare to. Ha! Liang Yin didn't want to waste her breath arguing with this kind of person. She knew that Li Jing was mocking her. She must have followed the unspoken rules of the assistant director. She was no longer the Liang Yin of the past. She couldn't tell what was going on, but she couldn't be bothered to point it out. It wouldn't do her much good to argue with a narrow-minded person like Li Jing. So, she brought Qin Zhou into the picture. As you know, I'm an artist personally managed by Qin Zhou. Just like you said, if I really relied on underhanded means to get to where I am, aren't you afraid of offending me and Qin Zhou? Qin Zhou had previously told her. If they were to encounter any troublesome matters, then they would not hesitate to use his name to suppress the situation. In the entertainment industry, there was no situation that Qin Zhou couldn't handle. Sure enough, when she heard Qin Zhou's name, Li Jing did retreat. Just as Liang Yin thought, she really didn't dare to offend Qin Zhou. Chapter 3991. Liang Yin didn't want to be entangled with her any longer and returned to her seat. At that moment, Qin Zhou had already arrived. Liang Yin sat down slowly. When she saw Qin Zhou, she put aside the unhappiness from earlier and said to him, "Why are you so late? You still have the cheek to talk about Qin Zhou." Hua Jin complained, "Didn't you go to the washroom? Why did you take so long?" As he spoke, Hua Jin noticed from the corner of his eye that Li Jing had also returned to the seat next door with a gloomy face. He could not help but feel suspicious. Seeing that Li Jing had also returned from the direction of the restroom, he asked Liang Yin, "Was she in the restroom just now?" "Yeah. She didn't deliberately make things difficult for you, right?" Hua Jin probed with concern. Liang Yin immediately smiled. "She knows that I'm under Qin Zhou, so she wouldn't dare to make things difficult for me." Humph, humph, humph. She's like a fox assuming the tiger's might. Hua Jin laughed. When Qin Zhou heard this, he more or less understood what was going on. Meeting Li Jing here by chance, Li Jing knew about Liang Yin. She also knew that the role of Gu Hunyao had been replaced by Liang Yin. Losing such an important role was enough for Li Jing to be depressed. It was inevitable that she would wonder what methods Liang Yin had used to get the role. Qin Zhou kept this matter in his heart and planned to deal with this stumbling block later. Even though Li Jing wasn't an important role, it was necessary to show her who was the boss. Liang Yin hadn't officially debuted yet. This thorn in her side definitely couldn't be left alive. "Let's eat," Qin Zhou said. Liang Yin and Hua Jin looked at each other and started eating. As Qin Zhou ate, he asked, "The day after tomorrow is the little princess's birthday. Have you thought of a gift?" Hua Jin slapped his forehead. "I haven't bought anything yet. I don't know what to buy. Soon, Yueyao would turn 3. This child's gift was the hardest to think of. Giving her jewelry would be too tacky. After all, the other party was a 3-year-old child. The gold and silver jewelry were all given by the older generation. Children would definitely like children's items, but this was the most difficult thing to imagine. Building blocks. The Mu family's children's room was filled with the most popular toys. Yueao's second brother was the chairman of Liji Holdings. It could be said that all of Yueao's childhood toys had been bought by Yu. He couldn't give her the toy. Then, Huajin probed Qin Zhou, "What do you plan to give her?" "I've already ordered a BJD doll a year in advance. It's made according to Yueao's appearance. It's a private custom-made one." Huajin was speechless. "That should be very expensive, right?" "It's not expensive. It's only $300,000. How could this be called not expensive?" Huajin's lips twitched. This Qin Zhou was too cunning. He had actually started planning this year's birthday gift a year in advance. This time, Huajin was very troubled. He didn't know what to give her. Liang Yin, who was standing beside him, was even more confused. A few $100,000 was not expensive. Poverty had limited her imagination. Huajin said, "Liang Yin, let me ask you something." "What?" "What gift did you wish to receive when you were young?" When Liang Yin heard this, she looked a little uncomfortable. "I didn't celebrate my birthday when I was young." "Why?" "Because," Liang Yin laughed dryly. "No one remembers my birthday. After a while, I felt that birthdays were not necessary." Chapter 3992. She had grown up in a broken family and had never had a complete family, let alone a complete birthday. It was as if her birth wasn't worth celebrating. Huajin saw the loneliness on her face and thought that he had touched her sore spot. He said awkwardly, "Sorry." "Ah, why are you apologizing?" Liang Yin hurriedly explained, "Actually, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't really care about birthdays, but if it were me, when I was young," she thought for a while and said slowly, "No matter what the present is, as long as it's a birthday present, I will like it very much." "Really?" "Yeah. Actually, it doesn't matter what the present is. What's important is the thought behind it. When you open the present, nothing can compare to the feeling of anticipation. It doesn't matter if it's expensive or not. What's important is the feeling of anticipation and surprise." Qin Zhou looked deeply at Liang Yin but didn't say anything. Instead, he pretended to ask casually, "When is your birthday?" I don't seem to remember. I don't really celebrate my birthday." Huajin asked Qin Zhou, "Help me think. What should I choose for Yueao's birthday?" "Think about it yourself." Qin Zhou snorted. "Don't you think it's a little late to be thinking about a birthday present now? If you had prepared it earlier, you wouldn't have been so flustered." Huajin ignored him and said to Liang Yin, "Accompany me to the mall tomorrow." Qin Zhou immediately interrupted Huajin. "She has class tomorrow. If you want to go, you can go by yourself." Huajin's face was full of resentment. Seeing Huajin's regretful face, Liang Yin couldn't help but laugh. "How about this? I'm free tomorrow night, so I can accompany you to the mall." "Great. Hooray." Huajin gave Qin Zhou a look as if he was showing off. Liang Yin smiled, but the corners of her lips suddenly froze. She didn't know why, but she was inexplicably envious of Yueao. There was even an element of jealousy. Of course, her jealousy wasn't malicious. She was simply envious that Yueao was able to grow up in such a beautiful environment. Her mother doted on her, and her father doted on her. Everyone in the family treated her like a precious pearl. People were born different from each other. At night, when Qin Zhou returned home, he passed by the study. He suddenly thought of something and walked into the study. There was a stack of documents on the desk. He casually picked it up and pulled out a few pages. He flipped to one of the pages. It was information about Liang Yin. On it was Liang Yin's ID number. With the ID number, Qin Zhou obtained her date of birth. Generally speaking, the birth date on the identity certificate was usually the Gregorian calendar. Then, in terms of the lunar calendar, at the beginning of the next month. Qin Zhou smiled, closed the file, and left the study. Hua Jin pestered Liang Yin to go to the mall to buy a gift. In the end, under Liang Yin's guidance, they finally chose a princess dress. Liang Yin liked it very much. Hua Jin didn't know how to choose a birthday gift for a girl. But when he saw that Liang Yin had chosen a dress that was suitable and beautiful, he bought it for 20,000 yuan. Chapter 3993. It happened to be the weekend on Yueyao's birthday. Hua Jin originally wanted to bring Yueyao along, but Yueyao had to stay with the crew to catch up on the progress. Therefore, she asked Hua Jin to bring the gift she had prepared for her. Hua Jin did not expect Liang Yin to be so thoughtful as to secretly prepare a gift. He did not know what she had prepared. Along the way, his curiosity was about to explode. He stared at the gift box anxiously, but in the end, he restrained himself. When Hua Jin arrived at the Mu family's house with Liang Yin's gift, he realized that the gifts from relatives and friends were piled up on the floor of the living room. Yun Shishir sat on the floor with Yueyao in her arms, encouraging her to open the gifts. On the side, Yu Yu and Xiao Yichen provided assistance. After all, it was really tiring to open so many gifts. All the guests stood at the side with smiles on their faces, watching Yueyao open the gifts. Everyone wanted to see if Yueyao liked the gifts they had given her. Most of the guests were close to the Mu family. Some were senior executives of Xingyu Financial Group, and some were personal friends of Mu Yaja and Yun Shishir. Hua Jin glanced casually and saw a key lying quietly in a diamond-studded gift box at the side. This key was quite retro. It had a hollow rose pattern, like the style of a medieval European palace. He asked Yun Shishir curiously, "Who gave you this key?" Yun Shishir looked up and smiled helplessly. "Shao Jia gave it to me." "He gave you a key?" Hua Jin was a little suspicious. He picked up the key, but could not figure out what it was. He did not know what the purpose of this key was. Yun Shishir said helplessly, "It's the key to a castle." Hua Jin was speechless. Gong Jia gave Yueyao a castle. Had he always been so generous? The castle. I heard that it also comes with an island. Hua Jin mumbled, "What a big deal." Little Jia said that he only has one niece, so of course he has to give everything he has. However, I also joked that if he gave Yueyao a castle and an island every year for her birthday, he would probably go bankrupt before Yueyao reached adulthood. Yu Yu looked up and revealed a sinister smile on her exquisite face. "When it's my birthday, he'll give me a castle too. That'll be interesting." As far as he knew, Gong Jia owned 4 castles, 6 islands, and 3 private jets. Xiao Yichen had always been thinking about the super-luxury yacht under Gong Jia's name. He planned to ask him for it on his birthday. Hua Jin carefully put the key, which was worth tens of millions of dollars, aside and rubbed his hands. At the same time, he passed the birthday gifts that he and Liang Yin had prepared for Yun Shishir. "Here. This is the birthday gift I prepared for Yueyao." Yun Shishir took it and realized that there were 2 gifts. "Why did you give me 2? One is for Liang Yin." "Liang Yin. Ah." Yun Shishir suddenly remembered. "Is she the girl who was with you on that vacation?" "Yeah. By the way, the gift is here. Why don't I see her?" Chapter 3994. Hua Jin said, "She's been busy recently and didn't have time to come, so she asked me to send the gift over. She said that she wanted to thank you for your hospitality and care last time. Also, she asked me to wish Yueyao a happy birthday." As he spoke, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Did humans really have a sixth sense? At least, he felt that they did. Because, he really did feel that a terrifying demon king was standing behind him. Hua Jin turned around in horror, only to see Gong Jia standing behind him, looking down at him. Gulp. The sound of him swallowing his saliva. Yun Shishir looked at Hua Jin and then at Gong Jia, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She didn't know why, but whenever the two of them met, there would always be a tense confrontation. They couldn't get along well at all. Yun Shishir helplessly tugged at Gong Jia's sleeve and asked hesitantly, "You? Why are you staring at Hua Jin like that? It's as if you want to swallow him alive." Gong Jia turned around. When he faced Yun Shishir, he immediately smiled gently. "Why would I? Sister." When he faced Yun Shishir, his smile was as gentle as it was gentle. Hua Jin quickly diverted his attention. He squatted in front of Yueyao and clapped his hands to attract her attention. "Uncle Hua Jin will open the present with you, okay?" Yueyao shook her head and said in a childish voice, "I can't open it anymore. I want to play with this." The little fellow was only 3 years old. She still had a childish voice. If one had to describe her, it would be like a kitten that had just been weaned off milk, squeaking and squeaking. She had just grown a new row of teeth, and when she smiled, it was as if she was encrusted with a beautiful shell. Because it was her birthday, Yun Shishir helped Yueyao change into a beautiful princess dress. The fluffy skirt wrapped around her fair and tender legs, and she wore a crown of the Ice Snow Princess series on her head. Anyone who saw her couldn't help but want to hug her. However, not everyone could hug this noble little princess. With Yu and Xiao Yichen around, and Mu Yaja, Yueyao's little feet usually didn't even have a chance to touch the ground. Yun Shishir always said that even if she was a girl, she should not be so spoiled, lest she develop princess syndrome. In the end, what did Mu Yaja say? Mu Yaja's daughter, is a princess syndrome. It was rare for Gong Jia to speak up from his brother-in-law's perspective. Our Yueyao was born a little princess. What's wrong with being delicate like a princess? Yun Shishir didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she also felt a little worried. With Mu Yaja and Gong Jia, the two of them doted on Yueyao so much. In addition, there were 2 older brothers. However, the most amusing thing was that Yun Shishir didn't really spoil Yueyao, but Yueyao was the closest to her. Mu Yaja was also very surprised. Once, he specially asked Yueyao about everyone's ranking in her heart. Yueyao's ranking was like this. Yun Shishir was the most senior. Then, in order, Mu Yaja, Yu, Gong Jia, Xiao Yichen, Hua Jin. Gong Jia felt especially wronged. He doted on Yueyao as much as Mu Yaja, so why was his ranking so low? Chapter 3995. Yun Shishir accompanied Yueyao the most. Even though she was a little strict with Yueyao at times and played the role of the bad cop the most, Yueyao was still the closest to her, which made many people jealous. Hua Jin immediately said, "Then uncle will take you to the yard to play, okay?" Yueyao immediately opened his little arms when he heard this. Many of the guests had brought their own children and they were all playing in the yard. Yueyao was tired of opening the gifts and gradually lost interest. Hence, he wanted to go to the yard to play. Hua Jin was about to carry him when Gong Jia squatted down and teased Yueyao, "Uncle will carry you, okay?" Yueyao looked at Hua Jin, then at Gong Jia. Suddenly, he threw himself into Hua Jin's arms. Gong Jia was speechless. He was completely stunned. Yueyao actually didn't choose him. Didn't they say that his ranking was higher than Hua Jin's? How did this little girl change her attitude so quickly? Yun Shishir laughed heartily. She leaned close to Gong Jia's ear and whispered, "Some time ago, Hua Jin bought Yueyao her favorite doll from the Frozen series." Gong Jia's face darkened even more. Weren't they just two dolls? What was so great about that? Hua Jin felt a sense of accomplishment when he saw Yueyao throwing herself at him. He felt comforted, but at the same time, he felt a little worried. As petty as Gong Jia, he wouldn't hold a grudge, right? Forget it. Anyway, he had always been at odds with Gong Jia. It wasn't a big deal to hold a grudge against him. Hua Jin carried Yueyao and walked into the yard. Yun Shishir had decorated the yard into a small garden. The flower bed was filled with Chinese roses, a swing, a seesaw, and a musical fountain. The yard was very big. Because it was a garden villa, the yard alone occupied more than 1,000 square meters. The children were playing hide and seek. Yueyao also wanted to join in. However, Hua Jin was afraid of playing hide and seek. It was inevitable that he would have to hide and walk. If he accidentally fell and left a faint scar on the little princess's flawless body, Mu Yaja and Gong Jia would definitely have the urge to chop him up. Hence, he was easy to coax. Fortunately, Yueyao was easy to coax. And let her obediently sit on the swing, and let Hua gently push her from behind. Standing at the balcony entrance, Yun Shishir looked on with gratification. Turning her head, she saw Gong Jia staring at the swing, too. Her lips curled into a smile. Have you been busy recently? I went back to the Gong residence a while ago. Gong Jia paused for a moment before replying nonchalantly, he wants to meet you. The smile on Yun Shishir's lips froze when she heard that. Him. She didn't need to ask to know that him was probably referring to Gong Xiaoying. It was too sudden. She didn't expect Gong Xiaoying to take the initiative to ask to see her. Isn't he no longer in the Gong residence? He's back. Gong Jia continued, of course, if you don't want to see him, I won't reply to him. Okay. Yun Shishir's tone suddenly turned cold. I wanted to see him too. This is the first and last time we're meeting as father and daughter. Rather than a meeting, it was more appropriate to call it a negotiation. It was time to put an end to the past grudges. She didn't want such a man to appear in her life again. It was about time to end everything once and for all. Chapter 3996. Gong Jia smiled and said, sure. Initially, he did not want to mention this at the birthday party as he was afraid that she would be upset. However, from what he knew, Yun Shishir would not be upset because of this. She was also looking forward to meeting Gong Xiaoying. After so long, Yun Shishir also understood that perhaps Gong Xiaoying did not have any ill intentions towards her and Yu Yu. It was just that he had used the wrong method to satisfy his greed. And his greed was just like what Gong Jia had said. He was just an old father who wanted to reunite with his family. However, he could not shirk his responsibility for erasing Yu Yu's memory, which indirectly led to the destruction of Yu Yu's first personality. She could not forgive him. She felt that Gong Xiaoying had betrayed her mother once, and she had no right to comment on that. That was a grudge between the previous generation. However, imprisoning Yu Yu and turning him into a tool for his own benefit was a second betrayal. A betrayal to her. Gong Xiaoying blamed her for being so resolute. And she also hated him for being so heartless. Gong Jia had not expected that Yun Shishir would be willing to meet Gong Xiaoying. From her expression, it was as if she was talking about the past with an old friend. He could not even see any resentment in her eyes. Instead, it was a kind of calmness that did not care. He had not expected that she would be willing to meet Gong Xiaoying. Perhaps Gong Xiaoying was afraid. He was afraid that meeting her would break all ties. Hence, Gong Xiaoying had been avoiding Gong Jia. He was afraid that Yun Shishir would take the initiative to meet him. Hence, like a coward, he suddenly disappeared without a trace. Yun Shishir thought that he had disappeared and would not appear in her world. She did not expect that Gong Xiaoying would suddenly ask to see her. As if they had a tacit understanding, the father and daughter both vaguely understood that this meeting might mean a break between the two of them. However, she still had to see him. Behind them, Yu could vaguely hear their conversation. However, the moment Yun Shishir and Gong Jia turned around, she immediately hid in a dark corner. It was not until Gong Jia and Yun Shishir were far away that he walked out from the corner in a daze. He vaguely heard his mother say that she wanted to meet that man. He was a little worried. The day after the birthday party, Gong Xiaoying found out that Yun Shishir was willing to meet him, so he put aside all his work and asked Gong Jia to arrange a meeting between him and Yun Shishir. Not long after, Gong Xiaoying flew to the capital. They arranged to meet at a secluded villa of Gong Jia in the capital at 6:00 in the evening. Yun Shishir would show up as promised. For the entire night, Gong Xiaoying could not sleep peacefully. He repeatedly pondered in his heart about how he should tell his daughter that he had not seen her for so many years and how he missed her and felt guilty for her. He was not very good at saying sentimental things, but it was obvious that this might be the last chance for the two of them to meet again. The second time they met might be at his funeral. Thus, he wanted to seize the opportunity to organize what he wanted to say to the Fate Society. However, the more he thought about it, the more confused his thoughts became. In the morning, Gong Jia called to say that he would be accompanying Yueyao in the evening, so the meeting time was set at noon. After lunch, she would come. Gong Xiaoying acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy. He deliberately styled his hair and changed into a formal suit, looking especially formal. Chapter 3997. Yun Shishir was very punctual. In this aspect, she was very much like him. At 1:00 in the afternoon, Yun Shishir and Gong Jia arrived on time. Gong Xiaoying was sitting in the living room. His assistant received the news and rushed to the door. Soon, he walked to his side and whispered in his ear, "They're here." When he heard this, his body inexplicably stiffened, as though he was nervous. Gong Xiaoying straightened his back and looked up. He saw Yun Shishir's slightly slender figure appear at the door. Gong Jia came with her, but he did not enter. Instead, he stood at the door, gave her a few instructions, and turned to leave. Gong Xiaoying also gave his assistant a look. "You may leave." "Yes." The assistant immediately left respectfully. Yun Shishir slowly walked through the door. Behind her, the door slowly closed. She walked to the sofa opposite Gong Xiaoying. First, she looked at him calmly. Then, she closed her legs and slowly sat down. Gong Xiaoying did not try to hide his gaze as it landed directly on her body. The first thing that came to his mind was that Mu Qingqing had actually given birth to such a beautiful daughter for him. She had a delicate and beautiful face, and her black hair was soft and smooth. There was no extra embellishment, but it was already charming enough. She was wearing a simple dress and a knitted jacket. It was simple, but it gave people a feeling of a cool breeze. Yun Shishir was silent. Perhaps she was waiting for him to speak first. Gong Xiaoying was also silent for a long time. Suddenly, he closed his eyes. As a father, he was the first to break the silence. "Thank you for coming to see me. I thought you didn't want to see me." When Yun Shishir heard this, there was not much expression on her face. Instead, she asked in return, "Why are you willing to see me? I thought you wanted to hide from me forever." "Indeed." Gong Xiaoying smiled self-deprecatingly. "At first, I didn't dare to see you because I felt guilty and uneasy. I was afraid that you would make a decision with me. But, someone told me." He paused and inhaled a breath of cold air. "Someone told me that if I kept hiding from you and refused to see you, I might not have the chance to see you again in this lifetime." With a sigh, Gong Xiaoying looked a little worried. "I also think it's funny. Why are we father and daughter, but we're like enemies? I won't forgive you." Yun Shishir also spoke up, but her tone was firm. I hate you. Only these 3 words. Gong Xiaoying felt as if his heart was being pierced. In fact, he hadn't expected what she would say. The only thing he had expected was that she would say these 3 words, I hate you. Even though he had expected this, he still felt his heart ache when she casually uttered those 3 words. I know that you hate me. Gong Xiaoying pursed his lips helplessly. I also know that you're here to sever our relationship as father and daughter. I know all these. Yun Shishir heard this, but she looked down coldly. Gong Xiaoying clenched the cane in his hand. This time, he had let go of all his pride and all his hatred for the Mu family. He did not want to hate anyone, and he did not have the right to. Perhaps, he was a successful businessman. As a businessman, his achievements were eye-catching and unparalleled. But whether it was as a husband or a father, he was a failure. Chapter 3998. As her husband, he had made that woman wait her whole life, but he did not return. As her father, his daughter had turned against him and told him that she hated him. She even wanted to cut off their father-daughter relationship. Gong Xiaoying knew that he was guilty. However, he hoped that Yun Shishir could return to his side and reunite with him. However, he had used the wrong method. He had pinned the feud between the Gong and Mu families on Yun Shishir. The saddest thing for a person was to gradually become the person he hated the most. He used to hate the Mu family so much, but now, he had become the executioner he hated the most. I'm sorry. Gong Xiaoying sighed heavily. He looked up and in an instant, there was a lot of vicissitudes in his eyes. I know that you must hate me very much, and I won't shamelessly beg you to forgive me. However, I'm already very satisfied to be able to see you again. When Yun Shishir heard this, she did not show it on the surface, but there were waves of emotions in her heart. Grievance, resentment, confusion, and doubt. More than that, she felt sad for her mother. She tugged at the corner of her lips and gave an extremely pale smile. Do you know? You're sorry, but no matter how many times you say it, it's useless. You also feel guilty towards my mother, but no matter how many times you say sorry, she can't return to your side, and she can't return to my side. You've made her love you all her life, wait for you all her life, and hate you all her life. Is this something that can be redeemed with just a few words of apology? Gong Xiaoying fell into a deep silence. Yun Shishir continued, once you've caused harm to someone, no matter how many times you apologize, it won't be able to offset the harm. She can't come back, and you can't go back either. Gong Xiaoying's eyes throbbed. He hated himself for not fighting for it, and hated himself even more for making Mu Qingqing wait for so long in vain. Yun Shishir took a deep breath and asked, why did you erase Yu's memory back then? I hope, Gong Xiaoying paused and explained, I hope that he can stay by my side. After all, he is the blood of the Gong family. I don't recognize the Mu family, and I don't recognize that brat Mu Yaja either. Then, Yun Shishir asked coldly, can you return Yu to me? Hasn't he already returned to your side? Yun Shishir furrowed her brows and suddenly said hoarsely, he did come back to my side, but the old Yu has completely disappeared. He's no longer here. The current Yu has become a little unfamiliar. He can't go back to how he used to be. After pausing for a few seconds, she glared at Gong Xiaoying with hatred. It's you. If it's not you. If it's not you. You would never become like this. Do you know how much pain he's in now? Gong Xiaoying didn't want to explain himself, but at the mention of Yu, he couldn't help but say, if I didn't bring him back to the Gong family, his condition might have deteriorated rapidly. Do you know his condition? Yun Shishir was stunned. His condition isn't optimistic. If he didn't recuperate in the Gong family, his organs might have gradually withered. Gong Xiaoying wasn't lying about this. This was also the reason why Gong Jie didn't hate Gong Xiaoying that much. Chapter 3999. And reality had proven that Gong Xiaoying's actions were indeed effective. Yu Yu's health was gradually improving. His heart's function had also increased by more than 5 times. At least, his body was no longer as weak as before. It was just that Gong Xiaoying did not tell anyone. It was fine if others misunderstood him. But Yun Shishir could not. He still had a selfish motive. He wanted to let her know his good intentions clearly. At least, for this reason, even if she did not forgive him, at least she did not want to cut off all contact with him. This was already a plea. Gong Xiaoying was such a proud man. He was high-spirited and arrogant all his life. Only in front of Yun Shishir did he lower his voice. Perhaps it was because Yun Shishir and Mu Qingqing looked too much alike. When he saw this daughter, it was as if he could see through her soul and see the woman he once loved deeply. His heart melted into a puddle. He poured all the guilt and love he had for Mu Qingqing into her, hoping to make up for his regrets and mistakes. Whether she appreciated it or not, he could not decide. He only hoped that even if she pitied him, she would not be so ruthless. Don't think that I'm her. Are you trying to brush me off with such words? Yun Shishir said angrily, you can't go back to how he was before, and this is all thanks to you. Gong Xiaoying, what is your heart made of? Is it cold? You caused my mother to suffer for her entire life, and you want to turn my world upside down before you are satisfied, right? Gong Xiaoying shook his head. But he could only shake his head. He could not explain anything else. Can you think of a way to make him go back to how he was before? Yun Shishir bit her lip hard and clenched her fists nervously. She was looking forward to Gong Xiaoying's other methods to wake up the old Yu Yu. She wanted the old Yu Yu to come back. Gong Xiaoying said calmly, he has a split personality. Do you know about this? Yun Shishir said, now I know. I didn't know about this before. Because he's too good at hiding. Gong Xiaoying's eyes revealed a rare look of admiration. This child has always known how to dote on others. He dotes on you and wants to protect you, so he only reports the good news and not the bad news. Is there no other way? Gong Xiaoying said, what if I say yes? Yun Shishir's originally lifeless eyes seemed to have been dyed with light all of a sudden. Her eyes widened. Really? Or, we can go back to the past and have the 2 personalities live in the same body. However, this is very painful. 2 personalities coexisting is very dangerous. Sooner or later, he won't be able to bear the burden. Because his 2 personalities are opposites, they will never be able to merge or accept each other. They are destined to clash. Yun Shishir's heart ached when she heard this. The old Yu Yu had 2 personalities coexisting. In front of her, he was innocent and obedient, kind and pure. But the other side was perhaps unimaginably cold. Did they have to go back to this? She couldn't bear to. She didn't want Yu Yu to suffer like this. Then, didn't you say there was another way? Yun Shishir was full of hope. What is it? Gong Xiaoying raised his eyes. His once handsome face was now filled with vicissitudes. Or, we can awaken the first personality and let that personality kill the second personality with his own hands so that the first personality can regain his dominant position. Chapter 4000. The corners of Gong Xiaoying's lips curved upwards. In fact, the first personality will never be killed. That's because the first personality is the original personality while the second personality is a derivative personality. Many studies have shown that other than the first personality, all other personalities will be killed except for the first personality. Even if he disappears, he will be temporarily sealed up. The way to awaken the first personality is very simple. However, if you want the first personality to take over, unless the first personality kills the second personality, it's very difficult to do so. Yun Shishir felt a stab of pain in her heart. Regardless of whether it was the first personality or the second personality, they were both her Yu. Whether it was the kind Yu or the cold Yu, they were both her flesh and blood. Regardless of which personality it was, she didn't want to give up easily. The first personality killing the second personality. Why did she have to make Yu go through such a cruel decision? No, Yun Shishir's lips suddenly trembled violently. Is there no other way? Gong Xiaoying shook his head silently. Shishir, I understand your feelings. Just like me, I also hope that Yu will be well. It's just that there's no way to make it perfect. You understand my feelings. When Yun Shishir heard that, she sneered coldly. You understand. If you understand, you won't be so cruel as to kill Yu's first personality. I didn't kill it. Gong Xiaoying's tone was very calm. No matter how good I am, I can't infiltrate the child's consciousness. What I'm saying may sound a little abstract, but to put it simply, other than the second personality, no one can communicate with the first personality. Yun Shishir's face froze as if she was frozen. I don't believe it. Her gaze was empty as she muttered, I don't believe that there's only one cruel way. There must be another way. Shishir, Yun Shishir suddenly stood up. You're not allowed to call me that. You have no right to call me that. Gong Xiaoying was speechless. He didn't dare to say anything else, afraid that he would accidentally say something that would anger her. She was too sensitive. He had to tread carefully. Calm down. Maybe there are other ways. Give me a little more time. I'll definitely think of something. No need. What method can you think of? The only method you can think of is the cruel method. The only method you can think of is to kill the personality cruelly. You are the executioner. In a fit of anger, Yun Shishir spoke without thinking. Because of her words, Gong Xiaoying's heart ached so much that he almost suffocated. However, he did not say a word. He remained silent and let her vent. He understood that her emotions had accumulated to a critical point and needed to explode. He allowed her to vent her emotions. That's all for today. I hope you can respect yourself and stop interfering with my life in the future. Yun Shishir added, no matter what, Yu is my son. No matter what, I will find the old Yu. You don't have to worry about anything else. After saying that, she left without looking back. Gong Xiaoying stood up and wanted to chase after her. However, when he saw how determined she was, he didn't have the courage to do so. He had lost. He admitted defeat. However, he had only himself to blame. Chapter 4001. Gong Xiaoying let out a heavy sigh and fell back onto the sofa. His face was expressionless. The door opened again. Gong Jia walked in and saw him sitting in the dark, looking desolate. He finally spoke. Father. Gong Xiaoying grunted. How is she? She left. I've already asked the chauffeur to send her back. Send her back. Otherwise, I won't be at ease. Then you don't have to worry about me. Gong Xiaoying waved his hand weakly. I'll just sit here alone. Gong Jia didn't say anything else. He turned around and left. The door closed again. However, Gong Xiaoying didn't notice that in the corner of the escalator on the second floor, a figure was slowly hiding in the corner. Yu stood in the corner expressionlessly. Earlier on, when he heard what Yun Shishir and Gong Xiaoying said, he actually felt a little upset. Disappointment, grievance, loneliness, unwillingness, guilt, he knew that the once innocent and adorable Yu occupied an unshakable position in Yun Shishir's heart. He also understood that even if he gave everything he had, he might not be able to replace Yu's position in Yun Shishir's heart. However, he still wanted to try. Therefore, He occupied this body and stayed by Yun Shishir's side only to gain recognition. He wanted to replace Yu. However, it seemed that he couldn't do it. No one could ever replace another person. Everyone was independent and no one could replace them. But why couldn't he? Was he not good enough? Was he not as good as Yu? He was already trying hard to change. His mother liked to see him smile. Even though he wasn't used to smiling in front of others, he was trying hard to become sunny and play the role of an innocent and pure person. However, he was originally a second personality, a personality born from darkness. How could he transform into the real sunshine? This was a form of suppression in disguise. He had also thought of giving up. She wanted to give up and let the original Yu return to her body. As for him, he chose to sleep forever and never wake up. But he couldn't do it. Even if he was born from darkness, he still instinctively felt warmth in his heart. Yun Shishir was as warm as the sun. Gradually, he developed a fatal dependence on this kind of warmth. Therefore, he occupied this body and wanted to play the role of Yu and take all of Yun Shishir's love. However, he had also heard it. He had truly heard it. Yun Shishir missed the old Yu so much and hoped that he would return to her side. He found out from Gong Jia that Yun Shishir was meeting with Gong Shaoying, so he secretly came here. He did not tell anyone because he was worried. Thus, he secretly hid on the second floor and overheard their conversation. However, when he heard Yun Shishir's true thoughts, he couldn't help but feel a little sad. Could it be that he wasn't needed? Yu couldn't help but doubt himself. She seemed to miss the old Yu. But what about him? Didn't she need him? Couldn't he replace him? Then, what was the point of his existence? Yu clutched his heart and squatted down with a lonely expression, hugging himself helplessly. He also longed for warmth. He was also Yu. He was also a part of this life. Why was he not needed? Why was he so rejected? Chapter 4002. At the same time, something that Gong Shaoying said reminded him of something. The first personality will never be killed. Was that really the case? Yu pondered over this sentence and felt a tinge of fear in his heart. The first personality would never be killed, but the second personality would disappear forever. He was the second personality. He could be killed by the first personality. Disappear from this world forever. Yu furrowed his brows. There was a look of hesitation and conflict on his exquisite and handsome face. It was as if he had finally made up his mind. The corners of his lips curled into a cold arc. When Gong Jia and Yun Shishir returned to the Mu residence, they didn't see Yu. They couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Xiao Yichen was taking an afternoon nap. Yun Shishir shook him awake and asked him where Yu had gone. Xiao Yichen said, "Isn't Yu at home?" The two of them looked at each other. Yun Shishir finally panicked. Why wasn't Yu at home? If he wasn't at home, where could he have gone? It had been more than a year since that incident. Yu had returned from Ashland Island. She still remembered that when he had just returned, he was extremely cold towards her and Mu Yaja. Yun Shishir's heart ached for him because he had lost all his memories. That was why he had become so cold. However, she cherished what she had lost even more now that she had regained it. She patiently accompanied him and cared for him. In the end, Yu gradually stopped being estranged from her and was no longer so cold towards her. He gradually accepted both Mu Yaja and Xiao Yichen and was willing to accept this family. At first, she was still worried that Yu would leave her secretly one night. However, even though Yu wasn't as innocent and adorable as before, he had gradually opened up to her. He had also started to like sticking to her. Yu usually wouldn't run around. Something must have happened. He had started to dote on her and wouldn't let her worry. How could such a Yu suddenly disappear without a word? Just as Yun Shishir was extremely worried, Yu obediently returned home half an hour later. Mommy. Yun Shishir was about to call Muyaja and ask him to hurry home to find Yu. Just as she picked up her cell phone, the door opened. She and Gong Jia turned their heads and stared at Yu as he slowly walked into the house. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately rushed over nervously and hugged him in her arms. Yu, where have you been? Yu couldn't help but yearn for her warm embrace. He hugged Yun Shishir's shoulders and stroked her hair gently. I was bored at home, so I went out for a walk. His tone was extremely affectionate, but he sounded a little dazed as he spoke. He saw Yun Shishir's nervousness, but he also felt a little lost. Was this worry real? Was this kind of warmth real? He was a little dazed. He didn't know if Yun Shishir's worry was for him or for this body. The conversation she had with Gong Xiaoying earlier still rang in his ears. She had said that she was still waiting for Yu to return to her side. Yu, are you cold? Yun Shishir's gentle voice interrupted his thoughts. It was snowing outside. Chapter 4003. Yun Shishir's gentle voice interrupted his thoughts. It was snowing outside. She didn't know where he had gone or how far he had walked. Just thinking about it made her heart ache. Yun Shishir touched his little hand. It was icy cold. Her heart ached as she held it and rubbed it for him. Mommy. Yu's lips curled into a smile as he turned to look at her. Yun Shishir had never seen Yu smile so brightly and warmly. At least, she had never seen him smile so brightly since he had returned from Ashland Island. She caressed his cheek gently. What's the matter? Yu smiled and said, Mommy, if I had a wish list, would you fulfill all my wishes? Wish list? Yun Shishir was a little surprised. You have a wish list? Yeah. Yu nodded and said, yes. I have a lot of wishes. Mommy, are you willing to fulfill them? If Mommy can fulfill them, Mommy will definitely fulfill them. Yu's face broke into a rare smile. He pursed his lips and smiled shyly. However, he immediately regained his usual calm expression. Then you can't go back on your words. Yeah, when have I ever gone back on my words? Yun Shishir said as she kissed his rosy cheeks. At night, Xiao Yichen walked into the room and saw Yu sitting on the bed. He was holding a notebook and scribbling with a fountain pen. Yu was used to using a fountain pen. The most surprising thing was that he had never practiced writing with a fountain pen before. However, his handwriting with a fountain pen was especially delicate and beautiful. Xiao Yichen didn't know what he was scribbling on. He looked over curiously. However, Yu sensitively closed the notebook and glanced at him warily. What are you doing? Looking, what are you drawing? I'm drawing you. Xiao Yichen was pleasantly surprised. Really? As he spoke, he reached out to snatch the notebook from Yu's hand. However, Yu immediately dodged him. He picked up the notebook and slapped it hard on his forehead. Xiao Yichen covered his forehead in pain and complained pitifully, Why did you hit me? How pretentious. Yu scoffed. Aren't you supposed to be able to take pain? Why are you groaning in pain? Xiao Yichen was speechless. He crossed his arms angrily and asked angrily, You secretly drew me. Can't I see how you drew it? I didn't ask you to look, so don't look. As Yu spoke, she turned around and flipped open her notepad. She held a fountain pen and started scribbling. Seeing that Xiao Yichen really didn't want to show it to him, Xiao Yichen didn't want to be snubbed. He lay down on the bed and played games on his phone. Yu glanced sideways and looked deeply at Xiao Yichen. Then, she quietly wrote on her notepad. I want to celebrate my birthday with Xiao Yichen. Here. Yu handed an exquisite notebook to Yun Shishir. Yun Shishir was a little surprised. What's this? Yu Yu's wish list. Yun Shishir couldn't help but laugh. She originally thought that he was just joking about his wish list. She didn't expect him to really come up with a wish list. She flipped to the first page. On the title page, Yu Yu had drawn a cartoon version of his family photo. His drawing skills were exquisite, and the cartoon version was very casual. Chapter 4004. On the first item of the wish list, Yu Yu wrote, "I want mommy to give me a morning kiss every morning and a goodnight kiss every night before I go to bed." Yun Shishir smiled, gently hugged the back of his neck, and gave him a kiss. Mwah. Good morning, Yu Yu. Yu Yu pursed his lips and blushed. He stood on his tiptoes and kissed her gently on the cheek. Good morning, mommy. Yun Shishir immediately said, Good boy, mommy will give you a morning kiss and a goodnight kiss every day until you get married. Okay. What's the second item? Yun Shishir looked down the list again. The second item was, say, I love you to Yu Yu. Are all your wishes so simple? Yun Shishir muttered in her heart. This little guy was so easily contented. She hugged him and said, Yu Yu, mommy loves you. Mommy will always love you. When Yu Yu heard this, the corners of his mouth finally broke into a warm smile. His heart was instantly filled with warmth. He snuggled up to Yun Shishir and rested his head on her knee. He just stayed by her side quietly. He wanted time to stop here and never leave again. He wanted to hug her like this and never let go of her. This warm embrace was the most difficult thing for him to let go of. However, he knew. He was very clear about it. Time would not stop here, and it would not stop at this moment. Therefore, he cherished every minute and every second in front of him. His docility and dependence made Yun Shishir feel tender affection for him. She hugged his back and slowly scanned through the wish list. 4. I want to build a snowman with mommy. 5. I want to celebrate Xiao Yichen's birthday with him. 6. I want to go to the amusement park with mommy and daddy. Gradually, Yun Shishir's nose began to ache for some reason. The list of wishes in Yu Yu's notebook was extremely simple, but almost every wish had something to do with her. At the same time, she felt an inexplicable sense of unease in her heart. This wish list actually made her feel a little heavy-hearted. It was as if Yu Yu would leave her if she fulfilled all the wishes on the list. She didn't know why she had such a thought. However, in the face of such an abnormal Yu Yu, she became very sensitive. In the past, Yu Yu would never take the initiative to stick to her. It was a feeling of having nothing to fear. It was as if a person's life was so long that there would always be many opportunities to accomplish many things. However, this wish list made Yun Shishir feel like Yu Yu was saying goodbye to her. It was as though he didn't have much time left with her. Therefore, he wanted to use the limited time he had to fulfill all his unfulfilled wishes and leave with no regrets. She didn't know why she had such a feeling. However, when she saw at the end of the wish list, take a family photo, her heart skipped a beat. She felt an inexplicable heartache. Why do you have this wish list? Yun Shishir asked tentatively. There are so many wishes. There's still a lot of time in the future. You don't have to rush to fulfill them now, right? Actually, they couldn't be considered wishes. Because this was something that she could easily do. For example, go to the amusement park, celebrate his birthday, or make a cake for him, for example, take a family photo. Chapter 4005. Yu Yu buried his little face in her embrace as he mumbled this under his breath. I want it. I want it. Yu Yu raised his head. His domineering tone was no different from Muyage's. Yun Shishir was a little helpless, but she let him do as he pleased. Okay, then, when your daddy rests tomorrow, we'll take a family photo, okay? Okay. At night, when Mu Yaja returned home, Yun Shishir asked him to take 3 days off. Mu Yaja was a little surprised. "What's the matter?" "Here." Yun Shishir smiled and handed him a notebook. "This is Yu Yu's wish list. Take a look." Mu Yaja took the notebook and glanced at it, a little surprised. "Wish list? Why did he make this list?" "I don't know. This guy has been a little strange since he came back yesterday, but no matter how I asked, he wouldn't tell me. He only said these wishes and wants me to fulfill them." Mu Yaja was a little stunned. He also felt that Yu Yu was a little strange, but looking at these wishes, he could actually fulfill them easily. He didn't say anything and just nodded. "I'll take tomorrow off." "You're asking for 3 days. Yu Yu said that he wants to go to the amusement park and celebrate Xiao Yichen's birthday. You can't be absent." Mu Yaja smiled and said indulgently, "Okay, I know. What else could be more important than his wife and son?" Hence, the next day, Mu Yaja called Lu Jinyu and said that he wanted to take 3 days off. Although Mu Yaja was the chairman and CEO of Xingyu Financial Group, in the company, even if he was the one who set the rules, he himself was very strict with the rules. Just like the other employees, he would clock in and out and would never be absent from work, let alone be late and leave early. Originally, Mu Yaja had 7 days of annual leave to make up for. Lu Jinyu said that he got it, and for these few days, he would be in charge of everything. Yun Shishir had already contacted the photographer the night before, and she had also informed Gong Jia and Hua Jin. The photographer arrived very early and did makeup for Yun Shishir and Lisa. Hua Jin was the last to arrive. When he heard about this, he specially took leave from the production team to rush over. Now, everyone was here. Yu Yu was very satisfied. Because of his wish, so many people had cooperated with him. This made him feel incomparably warm. Yun Shishir had only put on light makeup, while Lisa had only tied up her hair. She looked refreshed and did not put on any extra makeup. The background was sitting in the garden. The camera and light board were set up, and there was a bench in front of the flower bed. The men were standing, and the women were sitting. Naturally, Yueyao was about to enter the scene as well. Yun Shishir meticulously dressed her up. She put on a red blouse and a furry hat for her. However, the little princess was still drinking yogurt and was about to start filming when Gong Jia carried her away. Now, he was too big of a movement, and the yogurt spilled on the ground. When the little princess saw this, her heart ached. As a little foodie, when she saw the yogurt spilled, she immediately lost her temper. She was so angry that she kicked Gong Jia, leaving footprints all over him. Gong Jia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't do it on purpose. He immediately bent down to kiss her. Wah! Yueyao's face was full of disdain. She was so angry that she slapped his face. Chapter 4006. Gong Jia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't do it on purpose and immediately bent down to kiss her. Yueyao was so angry that she slapped his face. She slapped Gong Jia's face with her little paws. The group of people laughed and rushed forward to coax the little princess in a hurry. They fought to take the little princess into their arms. Even though Gong Jia was covered in black shoe prints from Yueyao's kicks, he could not bear to give the little princess to anyone else. This was especially so when Hua Jin came to pick her up. He rolled his eyes at him fiercely. Yu Yu stood at the side and watched quietly. In the past, he was not used to such a noisy scene. He liked quiet, but after returning to the Mu family, not only did he get used to it, but he also integrated into such an environment. She felt that the family was only warm enough when they were quarreling. However, all of this didn't belong to him. Yu Yu said softly in his heart, "Give me a few more days. Give me a few more days and I'll return everything that belongs to you." Yun Shishir took Yueyao from Gong Jie's arms. After the little princess was coaxed, she stopped crying and stopped making a fuss. She quietly lay on Yun Shishir's shoulder. Her dark eyes were still filled with tears, and her eyelashes were wet. It made her look pitiful. Yu walked over and stood beside Yun Shishir. He looked up at Yueyao and suddenly smiled and opened his arms. "Brother, hug." Yueyao blinked. At first, she was reluctant and shrunk her neck. Yu smiled and reached out his fingers to gently pinch her cheeks and ruffle her hair. It turned out that there was a telepathic connection between siblings. Yueyao and Yu looked at each other for a long time. Suddenly, she stretched out her hands and opened her pink lips. "Big brother, carry me." When Yun Shishir heard this, she realized that Yu was standing behind her and had been staring at Yueyao for a long time. She squatted down and Yu walked up to Yueyao and hugged her. Soon, Gong Jia also changed his clothes and went downstairs. Yun Shishir and Mu Yaja sat down. Yu hugged Yueyao and sat next to Yun Shishir. Basically, family photos were taken every year. But last year, because Mu Yaja was too busy with work and Yun Shishir took on a drama in the middle of the year, the two of them basically missed each other's free time, so they didn't have much free time. This time, it was just the right time to make up for it. The photos were taken on the spot and could be obtained immediately. One of them was enlarged, and the other was of normal size. They were placed in Yu's wish list. The so-called wish list was really simple and pure. For example, Yu wanted to celebrate Xiao Yichen's birthday with him. At the birthday party, he wanted to eat a cake personally made by Yun Shishir. Yun Shishir was worried about this. Although she would occasionally cook and bake, she would only stick to small cakes. She still felt a little guilty about making a proper birthday cake. Hence, the night before the birthday party, at 1:00 in the morning, she was still in the kitchen making the cake base. She had failed a few times before. It was either too hard or not fully cooked. It was because the proportions were not right. At 2:00 in the morning, the fresh cake base was finally out of the oven. Yun Shishir also made fresh cream, strawberries, and jam. Chapter 4007. At 2:00 in the morning, the fresh cake was finally ready. Yun Shishir whipped fresh cream, strawberries, and jam. In the middle of the night, Yu woke up and vaguely heard movement from the kitchen. He walked to the kitchen door in confusion, only to see Yun Shishir using the back of a knife to smooth out the cream on the cake. He couldn't help but be mesmerized. Yun Shishir was also immersed in making the cake, so she didn't notice the person standing at the door. Yu couldn't bear to disturb her, so he just watched as she smoothed out the cream, whipped the flowers, and embedded the slices of strawberries into the cake. He was about to go back to his room when he heard a surprised voice behind him. "Yu." He turned around in surprise, only to see Yun Shishir turn around and look in his direction. Knowing that she had been discovered, she stuck out her tongue in annoyance. "It's so late, aren't you going to sleep?" Yu said, "I'm going to pee." "Have you peed?" Yu said, "I forgot." Yun Shishir was speechless. She couldn't help but laugh. Pinching his face, she said, "Hurry up and go pee. I want mommy to kiss me. Kiss me after you pee. Kiss me before I pee." Little Munchkin insisted and moved his face closer. She had no choice but to give him a peck on his rosy cheeks. Little Munchkin hurriedly moved the other side of his face closer. Full of anticipation, he hummed, "Here. Okay, it has to be symmetrical, right?" Yun Shishir kissed him on the other cheek. Yu also kissed her and turned to walk to the bathroom. Yun Shishir tilted her head and watched his back. She didn't know why, but Yu had been very intimate with her these few days. In the past, if she missed a goodnight kiss, he wouldn't deliberately go to her room to ask for one. Recently, Yu was indeed a little abnormal. However, this means that he has become more cheerful. Yun Shushu comforted herself. She carefully placed the cake into the freezer and went back to her room to rest. The next day, there weren't many people at the birthday party. Gong Jia did not come, and Hua Jin was filming on set. It was a simple birthday party, and there were only 6 of them. But this was Yu's request. Since it was just a birthday party, he didn't want to make it a big deal. He wanted to make up for it because he hadn't had a birthday party with Xiao Yichen yet. They were twins born on the same day, but they didn't have the chance to celebrate their birthdays together, so they wanted to make up for it. When Yun Shushu pushed out the birthday cake that she had stayed up all night to make, Xiao Yichen was pleasantly surprised. Yun Shushu explained, Yu said that he wanted to eat the birthday cake I made. But, come to think of it, this is the most successful cake I've ever made. If Yu didn't want to eat it, I probably wouldn't have tried to make it myself. Xiao Yichen said with envy and jealousy, it's all thanks to Yu. Otherwise, I don't know when I'll be able to taste Mommy's birthday cake. Mu Yaja also said seriously, in the family, only Yu and Yueyao have this privilege. The tone of their conversation is really sour. Yu muttered, they're jealous. Chapter 4008. Alright. Let's cut the cake. Yun Shushu passed the knife to Yu and let Xiao Yichen hold Yu's hand. Be careful, okay, she reminded him. Yu held the knife while Xiao Yichen held his hand. They evenly divided the cake into 2 halves and then into 6 equal pieces. Yu took the first bite. The sweet and creamy taste complemented the refreshing taste of the strawberries. It tasted delicious and was comparable to the cake made by a cake shop. Although it did not have the skills of a top-notch cake maker, the fact that it was personally made by Yun Shushu gave the birthday cake a special meaning. At night, Yu held on to his wish list and removed one of the items. Seeing that all his wishes were gradually being fulfilled and that only the amusement park item was left, he felt a sense of loss. In his dream, he woke up and realized that he was lying on the sea. Wave after wave hit his body, but he did not feel any pain. Yu stood up and saw that there was a black cage not far from the sea. A child in a white shirt was quietly curled up in the corner of the cage. He did not move at all. From afar, he looked like he was dead. He slowly stood up and walked toward the cage. When he stopped beside the cage, he raised his head and looked at the child curled up in the cage. He could not help but reach out to touch him. However, just as his fingertips were about to touch the child's exposed and empty arm, he retracted his hand. Yu pursed his lips and grabbed the edge of the cage expressionlessly. He exerted a little force and the cage instantly collapsed into ruins. This cage was the cage that imprisoned his first personality in his subconscious space. He was the only one who had the ability to open the cage. Now, he had broken the cage. In the ruins, the child in the white shirt gradually opened his eyes. He looked like he had been in a deep sleep for a long time. The blood in his body was frozen and he did not stand up for a long time. He was cold. He had been asleep for too long. Because his second personality had been suppressed, he had been imprisoned for a long time. After sleeping for so long, her consciousness would gradually weaken. Even though she would never disappear, she would never be able to replace her second personality. Yu looked at the child in the cage and said calmly, "Are you awake?" The child in the cage opened his eyes. When he saw Yu standing in front of him, he narrowed his eyes in shock. "It's you, it's me." Yu coldly raised his eyes to meet his father's slightly dazed eyes. I tried my best. But, he took a deep breath. "In the end, I can't replace you." In the endless black sea, the two Yu stared at each other. In this quiet space of consciousness, they met again. It was like a confrontation between an angel and a demon king. Why are you here? Yu, who was wearing a white shirt, sat up in the cage. His gaze toward him was inexplicably wary. What do you want? Yu curled his lips coldly and suddenly leaned over. He placed his arms on the side of his shoulders and looked down at him, examining him without restraint. The white-shirt Yu was a little surprised by his actions. He froze and looked at him blankly. What do you want? Chapter 4009. He had been in a deep sleep for too long. Being trapped in such a space of consciousness and losing his own consciousness was no different from being dead. But now, his second personality had awakened. Yu stared at his face. Don't you think it's unfair? Why is it that you are the first personality and I am the second personality that was born? You're the one who gave birth to me. Now, I'm the one who's not needed. Why? Yu's handsome brows gradually formed a layer of hostility, like a dark cloud hanging over his head. It's not fair. Yu, who was dressed in a white shirt, smiled lightly and said nonchalantly, there's no such thing as absolute fairness in this world. In the past, I've always thought that I'm the real first personality. So, I used all means to replace you. If the two personalities were labeled by color, one was white and the other was black. That time, Alice hypnotized Yu. The second personality took over, and the black version of him awakened from his ideology. He had always thought that he was the real first personality and that he had the absolute control. So, he wanted to destroy the other personality and return to the dominant position. But that time, he realized, he couldn't destroy the other Yu. He didn't know why, and he didn't know that the personality that couldn't be destroyed was the first personality. He still thought that he was the first personality and that this body originally belonged to him. He should take it back. Until he heard the conversation between Gong Xiaoying and Yun Shishir, he realized that the first personality could never be destroyed. It would only be sealed. Then, he confirmed that this body didn't belong to him. The Mu family wasn't his home either. Yun Shishir, Mu Yaja, Yueyao, Hua Jin, these people who had given him warmth didn't belong to him. They belonged to Yu. The reason why he received this warmth was because they treated him as Yu, as a substitute. He was an unwanted substitute. Then, he chose to give up. Otherwise, Mommy would be very sad. She wanted the old Yu to come back to her, so he might as well fulfill her wish. He was willing to give up everything just to let the real Yu return to Yun Shishir's side. He didn't deserve happiness. That was because he was born from darkness to begin with. Even if his heart was closer to sunlight, the child of darkness was not qualified to receive sunlight. Yu smiled and abruptly clasped his brother's shoulder, swapping their positions. At that time, Yu had already been swapped. Yu. What are you doing? Yu, who was wearing a black shirt, slowly closed his eyes. He gripped his brother's wrist tightly and let his hand to the handle. Then, he clasped his brother's hand and strangled his own throat. Yu, who was in a white shirt, looked shocked. Don't you want to go back to Mommy? Yu smiled coldly and tightened his grip on his wrist. Kill me, then you can go back to her. Yu, who was in a white shirt, was stunned. The two of them were in a stalemate, maintaining this position. I'm only giving you one chance now. Chapter 40:10. Before I regret it, Yu whispered into his ear. His low voice was even more depressing than the dark sea. Kill me. Why? Don't you want to kill me? He found it strange. If it were him, he would not hesitate to completely wipe out the second personality so that it would no longer threaten his position. Why was he hesitating? He even asked him why. Ha! Yu's lips curved into a smile. His calm expression, coupled with his white shirt, was as bright and dazzling as the morning sun. Do you know? If I wanted to kill you, I would have had the ability to do so back then. But I had no choice because I am different from you. I am the first personality. I will not die, but you will. You are another me, and I am another you. This life is made up of us equally. But I have been occupying this body for so many years. Yu Yu sucked in a deep breath of cold air as he held his aching forehead. I'm sorry. All these years, I've taken Mommy's love for granted. I've taken all their love for granted, leaving you with nothing but hatred and killing. When he was young, those dark memories eventually formed the second personality. At that time, the personality had just taken shape and Yu Yu wanted to suppress him. He did not know that he had dual personality. But in his subconscious, he could see the other personality clearly. Sometimes, it was in his dreams. Sometimes, it was in real life. He was worried that the second personality would gradually take over him and even hurt his family. He had never thought that the second personality was also a part of life and that it also craved warmth. He had always defined this personality as evil and had been suppressing it. No matter how he resisted, Yu Yu would not give him a chance to take over his body. Hence, all the happiness in the past 8 years had nothing to do with him. He had taken over all the good things and left the darkness and pain to him. The second personality, Yu Yu, was born in pain and oppression. But from the beginning to the end, he lived in a world of oppression. He also wanted to experience what light was. What happiness was. Hence, when Alice hypnotized Yu Yu, the first personality was hypnotized and the second personality finally broke through the cage and sealed the first personality. But at that time, Yu Yu did not resist. Instead, he chose to sleep. He wanted the second personality to be free,